Phone.
All right, unrepentant patronage of made in Nigerian products. Like everybody should just be buying made in Nigeria.
You're excited for that?
I'm excited for that.
Please put your hands together for her. Unrepentant patronage of Nigerian products. Is there anyone that has patronized a Nigerian recently? Oh, 2 people. Yes, made in Nigeria. So is there any other person that wants to answer this question? There's a man there.
I noticed that there is a strong policy shift on the side of government. Just like she said, she mentioned unrepentant patronage. About a few weeks ago, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made a policy that every ministries, department, and agencies must patronize made in Nigeria. And for them to be able to go outside, they must get a written authority of the Bureau of Public Procurement. And I think that is a positive trend.
Right, that's a trend. Is there any other person? There's a woman there. Yes, looking very lovely as well.
Thank you. All right, my own point of view is the fact that despite the challenges facing the country, people are trying to, be tough, as in the resilience, and then you find them now manufacturing things. When you go to this person, you now notice that this is also manufacturing, let's say, a soap making a factory. One way or the other, somebody is doing something despite the challenges, and that is it's a plus for the country.
It's the unrelenting nature of manufacturers in Nigeria. Thank you very much. Is there any other person who wants to chime into this conversation? Okay, that's one person. There's a man. Okay, there's a lady. Okay, so let's just have her, then have him, and then that's it. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I believe one of the crises manufacturers are facing currently in Nigeria, it's also the energy crisis, which is what I mean saying that is the power or diesel or gas that they use in producing or manufacturing their products. It has really been a great crisis for them. The costs, what it actually costs them in getting the diesels, the gas, the power supply, the outage of the power supply, the inconsistencies in it makes them go into diesel, gas, and that is really on the high part for them. I feel it's a serious concern for the
energy crisis is actually a huge concern in the manufacturing sector. Thank you so much. And finally, the man in the native attire. So, yeah.
Okay, what is not in doubt is the resilience of Nigerian manufacturers, how they are able to be sustainable in spite of the harsh economic reality. But what I'm excited about, what I look forward to, is to see that we are able to see manufacturers improve their economies of scales arising from the Nigeria First policy. So let it be that this time we're not just mouthing the policy, we're seeing it effectively implemented to the extent that we can see our president drive a made in Nigeria car. Thank you.
Right, exciting. Thank you all for your responses this morning. I must say, I wasn't really expecting anyone to put their hands up, but I see that there are even more hands, but we cannot take any more of that. Thank you all very much for being here. We will be proceeding in the agenda today, but before then, I'd like you to please put your hands together for yourself for being here this morning. To give us the welcome address today, I'd like to please make welcome the editor of BusinessDay, Mr. Tayo Fagbole, as he comes to give us the welcome address. Please, with a round of applause, please.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for your time. As Elizabeth said, I'm the editor of BusinessDay. My job is to just welcome you all and get out of the way so that the experts that are gathered in the room can begin to give us and share their experiences. From where I sit in BusinessDay, we see a lot of the things that you talk about, but we don't know because we don't really run those factories. Some of you have mentioned some of those problems today. I mean, energy, but I also like the energy also in the room about the resilience, about, okay, fine, being hopeful. But I'm going to share some things with you that might be disheartening. Please don't be disheartened. But I also share what we see in Business Day as also hope about the opportunities, which is why we're having this gathering, and that's why you are here. If there was no hope, there were no opportunities, you wouldn't be here. Manufacturing as a slice of the economy comes to about 34 billion naira, okay? 35 billion in annual output. That's 8.4% of the GDP as of the fourth quarter of 2024. Now, 35 billion in manufacturing output sounds very big, right? But someone mentioned energy here and said most factories really run their own energy. If you listen very carefully, you hear the generator in your background, okay? In 2019, Nigerians off the grid generated or manufactured energy was $20 billion. To compare that to 35 billion in manufacturing output. So imagine if all of that money that was spent in manufacturing energy was spent in expanding, innovation, productivity. You can imagine where it will go. So big elephant in the room is energy, obviously. Oh, by the way, you should subscribe to Business Day. Since Monday, we've been running a series called The Paradox of Power, running Nigeria on empty, and I think you'll find it very insightful. I think we have some stories already today in the copy, but to get to the whole gist, please subscribe to Business Day. Also, during the course of the week, I bumped into two articles. One was on manufacturing in China. 10 years ago, the president of China started this Made in China 2025. This is 2025, and they're looking at how it has been successful. There are pluses, okay, they're doing very well, and also there are also negatives. There's serious fiscal deficit because they were just throwing money, a lot of money, into improving in some certain sectors. They have achieved it, really. They become number one in some certain things. They have achieved some of the things they want to achieve, but it has come at a cost. Okay, that's when government gets into the driving seat of trying to push industrial policy. It comes at a cost. We're trying to borrow more money, and we're all screaming, are we going to ask government to borrow more money again and push industrial policy? I don't have the answers, but let us find out. But of course, there's an advantage to that. China finds itself at the cutting edge of some manufacturing sectors, which is good for it. Now, we are also complaining because they've generated so much, they have to start exporting, which makes competing here in Nigeria very difficult. Hence, you understand the tariff wars. China really was the goal by the US. The target was China, but again, they've come to the negotiation table and they have to reduce tariffs because the US has realized because it can't do without China, because China has found a way to make sure it relies less on imports to drive its manufacturing exports. So it has an exporting dominance in the world. These are factors we have to think about. What has it used? It's invested a lot heavily in robots and automation. Nigeria's population is large, but how many of them are ready to go into labor-intensive manufacturing, talk less of competing with automation? Do I have the answers? I do not have the answers. But we know what to look at. The experts are here, and they'll be discussing that. But what I think we are not looking at, and probably we will find out today, and this is a personal opinion, is that for the manufacturers that are thriving very well, in Nigeria at least, I've coined up something that I think they are doing. It's called shared infrastructure as service. So you find that the big manufacturers, in my opinion, are spreading the costs of operations across. They're sharing those services, whether it's energy, whether it's logistics. Those two big cost drivers, they're sharing them across their companies. How are we studying this? How can we replicate this at scale, given those opportunities? How can the power distributors and generators crash the cost of power so much that all the factories, all the hotels, the biggest buyers, users of energy can cross over to the grid and free that money that they spent in generating manufacturing their own power into manufacturing. These are thoughts, these are challenges that I'm throwing at the experts today, and I hope they will address. And finally, this is the role of Business Day, to put together all of you who are the experts, have you talking, whether from the policy perspective, the business perspective, government policy, private sector demands, and hopefully fashion a way out that we can amplify through our platforms and put that right in front and center of those who make the decisions, whether in the private sector or public sector. So thank you all for your time, and I hope we have a wonderful and happy deliberations. Thank you all to our sponsors also for making this happen. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that lovely welcome address. So I'd now be welcoming for the keynote address today. For our keynote address today, we have an esteemed professional who is renowned for his profound expertise in policy advocacy and formulation, his strategic thinking, and dynamic industry leadership. So he is armed with a master's degree in international relations from Obafemi Awolowo University and a Bachelor of Science in political science from Ahmadu Bello University. He stands as a distinguished alumnus of Nigeria's highest government think tank institution, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, and he embarked on his illustrious career at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He swiftly ascended the ranks, showcasing unparalleled expertise and leadership prowess. His exceptional performance as Executive Secretary for the Northwest and Southeast branches and the Ikeja branch of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria earned him recognition, which led to his pivotal role as the Director of Man's Liaison Office in the Federal Capital Territory, where he served as linchpin between the association and the federal government. Please join me as I make welcome the Director General of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadir, as he comes for the keynote address this morning. You can do better with the applause. Thank you so much. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and I'm happy to be introduced as somebody who comes from the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, because that's what we do. And there's no difference between the two, because I had some murmur at the back whether we have changed the name. No, they mean one and the same thing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I do not have any protocol to stand on, and I'm very happy because Business Day is really business-like, and we shouldn't be here confronted with challenges and then try to hype each other. So I will just go directly to making my presentation. I have a prepared speech. I would like to start by conveying my deep appreciation to Business Day Media Limited for inviting me as keynote speaker at this esteemed 2005 Business Day Manufacturing Conference. This year's conference themed Unlocking Nigeria's Manufacturing Potentials, Strategies for Sustainable Growth Amid Economic Turbulence is apt and timely. This is because we operate in an era of economic uncertainty, global supply chain disruption, and rapid technological change. Therefore, unlocking the evident potentials of the Nigerian manufacturing sector is not just an economic imperative, it is a strategic necessity for sustainable national development. Permit me to state an African proverb which says, "Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors." Within the context of I interpret the proverb to mean that it is during times of socio-economic and geopolitical turbulence, such as we are in now, that good leaders are proved. Those that possess bold vision, decisive action, and innovation that build resilience. All of us must play the part. This is the central point of my address today at this conference. To this end, I would like to start by situating my presentation within a global perspective. The global industrial landscape has changed as governments around the world are reordering policies with uncertainties around investment, production, and trade flows reaching new highs. The global economy in 2025 is navigating a turbulent terrain marked by a slowdown from 3.5% growth in 2022 to 3.3% in 2024. In January this year, the IMF projected a modest growth of 3.3% by 2025, but recently a downgrade to 2.8%, the lowest in the last 5 years, buoyed by the Trump 2.0 spillover. The global economic landscape is undergoing seismic shifts characterized by geopolitical uncertainties, inflationary pressures, disrupted supply chains, protectionist policies, energy market volatility, and fragile financial markets. The manufacturing sector is not insulated from this phenomenon. As a matter of fact, it is only national economies that prioritize industrialization and build a viral manufacturing sector that are better placed to withstand the global shocks. China, the United States, India, South Korea, and Malaysia have all witnessed remarkable industrial developments, mostly due to their vibrant manufacturing sectors. These 6 industrial powerhouses collectively command 60% of global manufacturing output. In the last 2 decades, China manufacturing value added has skyrocketed from 625 billion to 4.6 trillion. In Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa are the leading industrial giants with manufacturing value added of 59 billion only. 55.9 billion and 49 billion respectively. That is, Egypt has 59 billion, Nigeria 55 billion, and South Africa 49 billion. They collectively contribute 49.2% of the continent's manufacturing output. In Nigeria, the manufacturing sector is a vital engine of economic growth, contributing significantly to value-added GDP, employment, government revenue, foreign exchange inflows, and technological advancement. In 2024, the sector recorded a market value of 37.4 trillion, representing 13.9% of the country's market size and accounting for 8.6% of real GDP. The sector employs an estimate of 12.7 million people, contributing 12.5% to the total employment, generating significant tax revenue, with manufacturers paying over 578 billion naira and 626 billion naira in local, non-import VAT and CIT respectively in 2023. The sector's linkage with agriculture, construction, services are evident. Despite the hostile macroeconomic environment and the persistent depreciation in Naira, the sector still generated over $6.7 billion through manufactured exports in 2019, above 1.5 billion export earnings in 2024, and attracted 1.5 billion in foreign investment in 2023. This according to the NBS in 2024. International efforts at scaling these critical contributions to forex inflow are vital for the stability of the local currency, upscaling employment generation, and enhancing economic growth. In addition, the sector earned 2.2 billion from the export of medium and high-tech manufactured products in 2022 due to the low but steady process of adopting new technologies that support improved productivity. Undoubtedly, these contributions underscore the sector's critical role in driving currency stability, employment generation, and economic growth. Unfortunately, despite its importance, the full potential of the manufacturing sector remains untapped, operating below its capacity due to macroeconomic headwinds, deficient infrastructure, and inadequate supportive government policies and incentives. I'd like to briefly tell you about the status of the manufacturing sector. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is generally accepted that the manufacturing sector is the engine of Nigeria's industrialization. Yes, its current performance is suboptimal. Its performance has remained lackluster due to numerous familiar binding constraints like unstable exchange rate, inadequate power supply, high cost of energy, high inflation, insecurity, multiplicity of regulatory agencies at high regulation costs, high interest rate, and poor access to credit, deficient infrastructure, high logistics costs, unfavorable trade policies, and low patronage. Available data shows that manufacturing capacity utilization plummeted from 73% in 1981 to 57% in 2024. And contribution to the economy has shrunk from 29.9% to 8.6% over the same period. Real growth has decelerated from 14.7 in 2014 to 1.38 in 2024, while non-oil export contributions have nosedived from 82.3% in 2019 to 25.13 in 2024. As at 2023, 767 manufacturing companies have shut down operations and over 18,000 jobs were lost in 2024 alone due to the hostile business environment. This is evident in the country's ranking of 97th in the Global Competitiveness Industrial Performance Index, and uninspiring 44 places below South Africa. The sector is worse hit by the prevailing economic downturn. It is now facing the combined storm of forex losses, rising raw material costs, high energy prices, multiple taxation, escalated borrowing costs, infrastructural deficits, and policy uncertainties. Market access and integration remains limited due to inadequate trading, information, and infrastructure deficits. The poor transport system has escalated logistics costs, making Nigerian manufacturers less competitive. Insecurity has elevated business risk, increased costs, and made the investment environment uncertain. Agro-allied industrial activities have remained challenged by insurgent activities and farmer herders clashes. From the foregoing, it is evident that the business operating environment is constraining Nigeria's industrialization. Urgent action is therefore required to address these challenges and unlock the growth potentials of the manufacturing sector. The current administration's commendable efforts at improving production capacity and reform the operating environment need to be accelerated and effectively coordinated. Time will not permit me to expatiate on the challenges that I've listed below, and I'll make it available to the organizers. I really do not think it is necessary for me to do so because we are all aware of what they are. I will therefore race to the part that talks about the imperatives for a vital manufacturing sector that will guarantee sustainable development, which is actually the main objective of this gathering. I've titled it here, Manufacturing Sector Development as a Strategy for Sustainable Growth. To unlock manufacturing potentials and foster sustainable economic growth, individual stakeholders have a role to play. I will start with the media, as this is your event. you have a crucial role to play in redefining the manufacturing trajectory for improved economic performance in the country. The media must leverage its influence to promote the manufacturing sector, work with MAN and other business organizations to champion the reforms necessary for the sector's survival and sustainable growth. In particular, the media should amplify MAN's advocacy, because the media serves as a powerful tool to project these priorities and ensure manufacturers' concerns are put in the front burner of public and government discourse. The media should hold the government accountable in the implementation of its economic policies. The media should expose structural constraints that limit the performance of the sector. Media should actively participate in the annual conference on the National Council of Industry, Trade, and Investment. This engagement is strategic because it is a platform for critical shaping of the national industrial agenda and amplifying stakeholder perspectives and reinforcing accountability. Media should share our success stories to attract domestic and foreign investment in the manufacturing sector. It should support local content development and advocate for policies that prioritize local sourcing of inputs. This will help to reduce dependency on imports and strengthen Nigeria's manufacturing base. It should also facilitate stakeholders' dialogue, such as we are having today, and I commend BusinessDay for this initiative. And lastly, it should promote evidence-based policy engagement, because we have seen that in recent times, particularly NGOs that are sponsored by international organizations, trying to influence the direction of government without situating the context of their plea within what we are facing as a nation. I've also listed here what government should do. The Nigerian government holds the primary responsibility for creating an enabling environment to unlock the manufacturing sector's potentials, a task that requires strategic intervention across infrastructure, fiscal policy, and regional integration issues. In this regard, we should commend the federal government for the passage of the 4 tax reform bills aimed at restructuring, streamlining, and establishing unified tax processes. The government should equally be commended for pronouncement on the Nigerian First initiative. The nation anxiously awaits the expedited consummation of these initiatives and effective implementation. Other must do for government include the following: effective engagement and inclusion in policy process. I will just run through because I see that I have 15 to 20 minutes if I'm lucky, but I believe most of the issues are fairly known. Government should gazette the Nigerian First policy and make it a binding imperative. And I say punitive measures should be put in place for violators. We have traveled this part before. Executive Order 003-005. Unfortunately, it has largely been observed in the breach. So there should be consequence. For instance, for any CEO of a government ministry, department, or agency that fails to comply. And it's been mentioned earlier today by my colleague, it will be a delight to see the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria driving a vehicle that is assembled in Nigeria. 360 members of the House of Rep, 109 senators driving vehicles that are assembled in Nigeria. What should do is to institute mechanism for gathering and disseminating export market intelligence to enhance our market access. Provide a stable and predictable policy environment. We should go away from policy inconsistency and be transparent in our policy making and implementation. This will bring investors confidence and long-term planning and industrial growth. Government should urgently improve infrastructure and logistics network. They should invest heavily in critical transport infrastructure, particularly roads, ports, and industrial corridors to reduce logistics bottleneck. We appreciate the recent development in the sector, but with only about 37% of roads in good condition, manufacturers still face delayed access to markets and increased transportation costs, making local products uncompetitive both locally and internationally. Should fast-track Ajaokuta, Kaduna, and Kano gas pipeline. The project, which is targeted for completion in 2025, is poised to add 3.6 gigawatts to the national power supply. This boost will reduce the current reliance on diesel generators among manufacturers and improve capacity utilization. Protect local industries against unfair trade practices. Stronger enforcement against smuggling, dumping, and counterfeit goods will safeguard local manufacturers and level the playing field. One of the greatest challenges that any manufacturer can face is competing against smuggling and dumping. No matter how strategic you are planning, these guys will come in and drive you out of the domestic market. Should tackle insecurity to protect industrial zones and investors. By our last calculation, we had lost 60% of our members operating in the Northeast, majorly due to the activities of the insurgents, who have made it practically impossible for them to operate their industries. Should support local content and value chain development. And this should be done even across our borders, because the ETLS and the AFCFTA have created a good atmosphere for this kind of cross-cutting engagements. Should address the financial gaps and reduce borrowing costs. With the significant gap between loan application and fund allocation, coupled with average interest rate exceeding 30%, manufacturers are deprived of affordable long-term funding. I would like to pause here to briefly say those low-hanging fruits, because what I've said before have largely related to the broad environment in which we operate. But there are some specific things that governments can do immediately, because we all know that in politics there's very short memory. It's not only happening in Nigeria, but most part of the world, and we look for immediate fixes. So we are making recommendations can be fixed immediately. So there will be a unity between our aspiration and what government can do. To demonstrate commitment to industrial growth and reduce the mounting cost pressures, the government should urgently consider the following low-hanging fruits. As a matter of fact, I think they are no longer low-hanging. They have literally fallen on the floor. It's now the issue of picking them up. A nation without a clear industrial policy is like a ship without a rudder. We must adopt a comprehensive policy framework that guides our industrial development, foster growth, and propel us towards a brighter economic future. Adopting the report of the 2024 Manufacturers Summit on rethinking the Nigerian manufacturing sector and MAN's Blueprint 2.0 as working documents will fast-track this process. As we speak, we do not have a holistic industrial policy that serves as a compass for determining our engagement, those domestically and internationally. I believe the time is ripe, and Nigeria should urgently do this. The CBN to prioritize forex sales to manufacturers, honor the unsettled 2.4 billion forex forward contracts, and restrain commercial banks from harassing manufacturers. I'm sure you'll have seen in the papers how some banks are freezing the accounts of manufacturers on account of a problem they didn't cause. It is important that we halt this situation before it degenerates into a bedlam. This will restore manufacturers' confidence in the market and peg the exchange rate for calculating customs duty on raw materials, spare parts, and machineries that are not available locally. The Nigerian force policy must quickly move from initiation to government policy, lest it suffers the same fate as the Executive Order 003 and 005. Nigeria must seize this moment to transform its manufacturing sector by prioritizing the patronage of local products. If we fail to nurture our own, we will forever be at the mercy of others. Government should cut the benchmark interest rate and actively deploy moral suasion and regulatory guidelines for commercial banks to prioritize lending to manufacturers at single-digit concessionary interest rates. Should leverage the country's partnership with the BRIC nations to further diversify its export markets and products and reduce dependence on the US market. Should fast-track the deployment of the National Single Window Platform, strengthen interagency collaboration at this crucial period of tariff war in order to safeguard the economy against possible aggravated smuggling and dumping. Should inject life into the manufacturing sector by implementing the 1 trillion stabilization fund and facilitate the increase in the capital base of Bank of Industry to meet the credit demand of industries. Remove the 4% FOB levy permanently and address the concerns of importers who already paid the levy before the suspension. The 4% freight on board surcharge on exports is an avoidable burden that confronts government fiscal incentive and compromises the competitiveness of made-in-Nigeria products. Eliminating it will directly avert the looming price escalation of goods in the face of dwindling disposable income of the average Nigerian. It will enhance the viability of Nigerian exports and promote non-oil revenue generation for government. Manufacturers who already paid the levy should either be refunded or allow the use of the sum to settle future payments. We should halt the astronomical annual charge imposed by the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, as it imposes a heavy charge on non-listed entities. This imposition is unwarranted and should be withdrawn permanently. Stakeholders' engagement should be conducted with the aim of addressing the concerns of impacted companies and align the charge with the principles of the current tax reform agenda of government. Government should also immediately reverse the 15% increase in port charges by the Nigerian Port Authority. The recent 15% hike in port charges by NPAC is ill-timed and will lead to an escalation of the already high cost of imports. It is at variance with the prevailing situation around West Africa, and this is coming at a time that other ports are lowering costs to boost patronage and improve efficiency. We should address the 240% hike in electricity tariff. This massive increase in electricity tariff and the threat of further hikes are unsustainable for manufacturers. Government should work with NEC to ensure service-reflective and genuine cost-reflective tariffs. The DISCOs should be compelled to make the needed investment in infrastructure, meter availability, and commitment to evident improvement in power supply. There's also a role for the consumers, and I believe many of us, if not all of us, are consumers. Nigerians should patronize local products to strengthen domestic manufacturing. Consumers should prioritize and actively support locally made products, helping to stimulate demands for domestic manufacturing. By choosing Nigerian-made goods, consumers can contribute to the sector's resilience and growth, fostering economic development and job creation. Should also empower Nigerian brands through constructive feedbacks and reviews. Active consumer engagement through feedbacks, review, and constructive criticism can drive improvement in the manufacturing process. By sharing genuine experiences and expectations, consumers play a critical role in pushing manufacturers to meet local needs while enhancing product standards. I will not conclude without saying what responsibility the manufacturers themselves have. While advocacy and stakeholders' engagement are vital, Our manufacturers themselves must take deliberate steps to position the sector for sustainable growth and current economic headwinds. We should be more proactive and flexible. In today's volatile environment, agility is a strategic advantage. Manufacturers must anticipate market shifts, adjust swiftly to policy changes, and adapt policy models to seize emerging opportunities. Prioritize production efficiency by investing in modern technologies and embrace lean manufacturing tools. Recommit to high-quality products, improve packaging, leverage cross-border value chain, invest in workforce development, adopt an export-oriented mindset, embrace ESG principles, strengthen research, innovation, and product development, deepen digital transformation, build consumer confidence and brand loyalty. Because of time, I didn't expatiate, but like I said, I will make the paper available, and I think to everyone who is gathered. I would like to conclude so that I don't bore you too much. Unlocking Nigeria's manufacturing potentials requires collaboration from all stakeholders: the government, the media, the consumer, and the manufacturers themselves. The destiny of a nation is shaped by the choices it makes. And for Nigeria, repositioning its manufacturing sector as Africa's industrial hub should be a manifest destiny. I thank you all for listening, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadir. Thank you very much for highlighting some of the challenges. You had mentioned insecurity, high interest rates, and high logistic costs, as well as the energy crisis, amongst others. But you also did well to highlight some of the current administration's efforts to develop the manufacturing sector, as well as some of the low-hanging fruit present. And we'll be deep diving into these conversations during the panel sessions. But right now, please put your hands together for him once again, please. Right now, we'll be welcoming another very brilliant individual, because every single person here present is very brilliant, and she'll be coming to give us a presentation. She's an accomplished professional with expertise in external relations, corporate communications, and stakeholder management. She is the External Affairs Director at British American Tobacco West and Central Africa, where she leads communication strategy across the region. She has a legal background, and as a chartered secretary, she joined the British American Tobacco in 2006, where she progressed through various legal and external affairs roles. International assignments span Indonesia, the Americas, and Sub-Saharan Africa. She's a trailblazer for women in leadership, and she is one of 3 female leaders on BAT's regional board. I thought we would clap for that. She champions gender equality, mentorship, and women's empowerment, where she inspires others with leadership and advocacy. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in making welcome Odiri Erewa Megasin. She is the External Affairs Director at the British American Tobacco, West and Central Africa. Please, another round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll first like to thank BusinessDay for this opportunity to come and talk to you a little bit about what we as manufacturers are doing, using my company, British American Tobacco, as an example of how you can succeed in Nigeria. Okay, my presentation is up. Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you so much. I also like to say thank you and good morning again to my brother, Mr. Ajayi Kadari, who's director of MAN. He's been very close to us, really championing the way for manufacturers in Nigeria, charting a course and making sure that there's a close divide between what government is doing and making sure that they address manufacturers' concerns to make sure that we take manufacturing to the next level. So we need more people like him championing the cause for us in Nigeria so that people can really appreciate and understand and help us to make Nigeria better. So let's give him a round of applause as well, please. Okay, so the theme for the session today is Unlocking Nigeria's Manufacturing Potential, Strategies for Sustainable Growth and Amid Economic Turbulence. So I'll first of all, like I said, good morning everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here today to speak about manufacturing and especially about what we're doing in BAT and how we can collectively unlock the potential. There's a lot of potential in Nigeria. People outside see it, investors see it when they come in, they don't want to leave, but a lot of manufacturers, like Mr. Ajayi Kadari explained in his presentation, have not been able to weather the storm and have closed and left. But there's a way to stay on, and it's important that companies like ours who have succeeded over time are able to share examples of how we have succeeded, how we are succeeding, as a best example and template for others to learn something from. So my presentation is going to talk briefly about what we are doing as BAT and what we think that we can take from this. It's not moving. Okay. All right. So the manufacturing sector is very important. And when I say why is it important, it's important for us because you need a vibrant manufacturing economy to be able to diversify, to be able to create jobs, to be able to make sure that we also grow exports. Like I say, when we import, we're exporting jobs, and when we export, we are creating jobs as well. And also, when we manufacture, it's important that the president now is saying, put Nigeria first, right? In terms of this Nigeria first policy, it's very important that we're all keen to that because nobody can do better than us in terms of if you don't own and promote your own, you can't expect people outside promoting your own for you. You have to, charity begins at home. When we look at the population that we have in Nigeria, we have so many, we're blessed with so much resources, vibrant young community as well. There's a growing demand, there's a huge demand for goods. We consume a lot, we're a consuming economy. So there's a role for Nigeria manufacturing sector to play here and be very significant in ensuring that not only do we untap this potential that we have, irrespective of the challenges that Mr. Kadiri has explained in his keynote address. We have a lot of materials, right? We have what it takes for transformation of the industry, promoting both the domestic and also providing for the future markets. However, we've seen that there has been a lot of infrastructure gaps, there have been regulatory inconsistencies, a lot of manufacturing companies, like he said, have left Nigeria, right? Manufacturing sector, from my research, shows that we contribute approximately 9% of Nigeria's GDP on an annual basis, and it holds a lot of potentials to drive employment. There's no reason why we should have a huge amount of employment that we have at the moment. There's no reason why we should be largely dependent on imports. And there's a great opportunity for us to boost exports. Now, this sector, irrespective of all the challenges, has shown resilience despite the huge economic winds. And then there's also, with the coming of AFTA, there's opportunity for the future for Nigeria to play a pivotal role as well. So we can leverage the relationships across border, the markets, to make sure that we're very competitive in pricing and in quality and having the right mix when we send our products across board. So it's important that for us to tap into this full potential that we have, we have a clear vision, we have a clear strategy tailored towards how we can have a long-term goal and long-term sustainability. So I'm going to walk us through in terms of what I mean by this. First of all, I would like to use BAT, like I said, as an example to show how we have been resilient and how we have continued to BAT. We've been in existence for over a century in Nigeria, but we've had this factory in Ibadan for over 2 decades. And out of this world-class factory, it's amazing. Anytime we bring people to the factory, they are blown away to see how we can have such a world-class factory in Nigeria. BAT is a multinational. We operate in over 150 countries globally. And irrespective of whatever country you go to, whether it's in the Americas, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia, the standards are the same. The factories are the same. The only difference is the location itself. So we invested a lot. This factory cost us over $185 billion to date. $1 million to date, and we have been producing made in Nigeria cigarettes from this factory. We have now expanded our borders from beyond Nigeria. We export to 11 countries, and recently this year we started exporting to United States of America as well. We also hedged a lot in terms of we plan a lot. We plan 5 years, 10 years ahead. We are able to, all through the time where we're having a lot of issues with Forex, you know, we are able to generate in excess of $110 million per annum in terms of Forex. So we are one of the few companies that doesn't rely on government for Forex. We generate our own Forex. And we're top 10 non-oil exporters in Nigeria consistently. We're very, we pay our taxes. We've paid over 450 billion in taxes and levies. We've put back over 2 billion naira in terms of CSR into the country. We are #1 tobacco manufacturer with over 55 share of market in Nigeria. We've created over 350,000 jobs across the divide, both direct and indirect. So from this factory, we've been able to do a lot. We've been able to put made in Nigeria goods, not only top quality in Nigeria, but we've been able to put made in Nigeria goods on the map across West and Central Africa. So we're very aligned with Mr. President's put Nigeria first policy. In terms of the people, you know, we can't do anything without the people. So we're very big on the people. We realize that human capital is pivotal to the success of who we are and are the most valuable assets that we have. So we foster an inclusive environment whereby we retain and train top talents. BAT is a huge poaching ground for talents across Nigeria. We have Nigerian inclusion score. So we are basically moving from, company whereby, even though it's a multinational, whereby it's predominantly led by foreigners, to whereby it's Nigerians who are now running the multinational company in Nigeria and West and Central Africa, which is great. So to date, we have about 86% of Nigerians running the operations in this multinational. We have over 600 employees who are trained annually, and we send people across all the countries in which we operate. We have 67% of our senior leaders currently being Nigerians. We've increased the number of women who are in top positions to about 36%. And within the leadership, we're 38% women in the key leadership roles now. We also keep ensuring that we make sure our employees are future fit for the future, and we keep on training them. Now we're moving into the digital age. We need to make sure that we continue to remain relevant from a digital perspective. We're also transforming our business beyond tobacco to a multi-category business. So it's important that our employees are ready for the future as well. And technology is in the center of everything that we do in terms of our operations. Now, when we look at sustainability, Mr. Kadiri spoke about this. Sustainability is very important because for us to succeed and for us to be sustainable into the future, as a manufacturing entity, you have to take sustainability very serious. It can't just be a nice to have. It needs to be pivotal to everything you do. For us, it's in the center of everything that we do as BAT. It's not just a nice to have. 2 years ago, we were the catalyst that started driving what we called an ESG, that's Environmental, Social and Governance Forum, Pan-African in Nigeria here. And the whole idea was that we wanted to be the catalyst to say that how can we make sure that manufacturing, not just manufacturing entities, but private governments come together and we actually take ESG more serious, because we need to make sure that the planet from which we derive our livelihood from is future fit and preserved for the future, for future leaders and for the sustainability of the country as a whole. So we actually came up with this, took sustainability as very important for us, and we realized that we needed to also showcase what are we doing, within BAT as sustainable in the ESG platform. What are other companies similar to us doing? How can we showcase that for other people to learn as best practices, and also pledge how we want to take ESG forward into the future? So I will just give you a little bit of a scorecard in terms of what it is that we have done in this regard. We've set some very stiff targets for ourselves. We said that by 2050 we want to be net zero, 50% reduction of CO2 from our factory. We've said that we want to be 100% in terms of waste to landfill. We have achieved that. We've said that we want to recycle the water that we use in the factory. We have done that to 30%, we've achieved that, and so much more. Just to give you a simple example of what we've done in the factory. Everyone knows that in Nigeria, you have to generate your own power, and that's a huge cost of production for manufacturers. We have installed a 1.4 mega solar plant in the factory. We've also transited from diesel to gas. So today we don't rely on diesel any longer. Diesel is now like a backup. We use gas as a main source of power, and solar panels as well. Just from a cost perspective, just to put it in for you to understand what it means. On a day, we generate about 4,500 kilowatts per hour of solar power in the factory. What does this mean from a cost perspective for us? You know what the cost of diesel is today? It's what, over 2,000, right? Per liter, or close to, if not, yeah? The gas that we generate, it costs us per unit of electricity between 230 naira to 235 naira per kilowatt per hour. With solar, we're spending about 35 to 40 naira per kilowatt hour. That's saving us about 200 naira per unit. So you can see that from our factory alone, we have, and the cost of power for us is about 20% of our total cost of production. So you can see that from that, strategically reducing the reliance on diesel, how much is putting back, how much is helping us to plow back into our business, and helping us to be more efficient for the long run, and as well as protect the environment. We're no longer using diesel that is polluting the environment as we were before. Transportation, there's huge issues with transportation, because ideally, especially because we export to West and Central Africa, currently it takes us about 20 days for us to go through ports, clearance and all of that, which is a lot. It impacts our lead times. And we are aspiring to have this reduced to 1 week, right, for more better efficiencies. And then it's also important that there are eliminations of port congestions, eliminations of bureaucracy at the ports, there are eliminations of change in regulations. For example, early this year, we heard that customs wanted to bring an additional 4% levy charge on imports. You can imagine what that would do to the manufacturers. And it was just announced without interaction with stakeholders. So what we're saying is that these regulatory changes, have a negative detrimental impact to operations. It's important that there's always a stakeholder dialogue. There's always a convergence of minds in terms of what government is trying to achieve and what is tenable. And why is this important? For us, we are the hub for West and Central Africa. So we compete against Kenya, we compete against South Africa. Cost of production here is already very high. So if by the time we get our goods to the end market, if the pricing is too expensive, there's no reason why the consumer will pick us versus products that can come in from Kenya or South Africa at a cheaper cost. So it's very important that the government looks at the current context in which Nigeria operates and how we can make sure that our goods are competitive so that when we take it out, we can bring back the forex, we can create jobs in Nigeria. That's very important. When we talk about taxes, it's great to see that they've consolidated and they're harmonizing the taxes. But before you start listening to external advice on how you should come up with taxes, tax systems, excise, and all of that, you have to look at it in the context of your local economy to make sure that your goods are competitive for the consumers. The consumer doesn't now jump from picking a competitive product to an illicit product that does not pay the relevant tax to you. Now, apart from all this that we've set ourselves and the targets that we're achieving, leveraging on this ESG forum that we also spoke about, we've been able to bring a lot of public and private sector together. Last year, we continue to showcase best practices in terms of what it is that we're doing, what it is that our partners are doing for others to embrace and to learn something from. And we've birthed a young professionals forum where we are currently mentoring young professionals in the way of sustainability, because we believe that we need to play this forward. And the whole idea is that at the end of it's a 6-month mentorship program. At the end of that 6-month period, we should be able to find them some form of internship within the partners that they can learn, and they can now play forward the sustainability practices that we have agreed on. Now, ESG Forum, like I said, it's a platform whereby we want to showcase best practices. It's a platform whereby we want to make sure that everyone that comes together is able to see what role can I play to protect the environment from which we derive our benefits from? What role can I play in terms of giving back to the society? And then how can I make sure that my practices are done with the right governance structures in place? The world is becoming so small now that governance is very important in terms of how your business operations are being conducted, the kind of higher standards that were held to account, not just locally, but also on a global platform as well. So we're bringing everybody together to see, what can we do to make sure that Nigeria is, up its games. Nigeria protects the environment. We can see that things are changing, the impacts that how it's fighting back, against environmental degradation. We can see all of that. We're not insulated from that. So what role can we all play in making sure that we protect Nigeria's environment is very important in this regard. Now, when we talk about sustainability growth and strategies amidst the turbulent situation and environment we find ourselves, what exactly are we talking about in this regard? For us, I think that my key message here is that sustainable growth demands a coordinated and long-term approach that is anchored on market-driven strategies. So we have to have a strategy. We have to think long-term. How do we want to drive this? And, we think that to be able to achieve our ambition, we need to look at some strategic pillars, right? We need to see
how breaking barriers to growth, mitigating the impact of multi-layered taxation, infrastructural deficits, and reliable power supply. And on this panel, we have got Mr. Olushola Obadimu, FNSE, FCIOD, the Director General at the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Nasima. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up. Thank you very much for sustaining the applause. Also on this panel, we've got Mr. George Olutokpe Onafowokon, FNSE, the Managing Director and CEO of Coleman Technical Industries Limited. Thank you very much. Please sustain the applause till they get to their seats. Thank you. Also on this panel, we have Adetunji Aderito, the founder of Zeta Mind Consulting Limited. And last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Esther Williams, the Director and Procurement Officer at Williams Dabo Group Limited. Thank you very much. Please do better with the applause, please. Thank you. And moderating this panel is Dikpo Oladende, the head of the energy desk at BusinessDay Media Limited. Please put your hands together for him. Also, we'd like to please implore you to share our streaming links with your community. So this event is being streamed on BusinessDay's TV channel. Just so you know, we have a BusinessDay television. And if you aren't subscribed, please do well to subscribe to our channel. Please just type on your phone right now. If you give me just give me 2 seconds to bring out your phone, please, and search for BusinessDay Television. BusinessDay Television, you would see us. It's on your screen. Thank you so much. So you can scan the QR code and then please do well to subscribe. So we have conversations like this every other day because we have shows that are very beneficial to you. And we'll also hope that when we call on you to be a guest on any of our shows, we hope that you would oblige us. So please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. And please do well to share the link, just as I mentioned earlier, with your community as well. Once again, please put your hands together for our panelists as they delve into this conversation. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, good morning, everyone, and good to be here once again. And it's been a very, very interesting conversation about Nigeria's manufacturing sector. And so my job here is basically to moderate a conversation about three major topics or 3 major issues. Now, these are not new issues. They are old, but then again, we discovered that a lot of people are mitigating or innovating around some of these challenges, and that's what we are here to talk about. So we'll talk about the solutions, we'll talk about how we are solving some of these challenges, and then we'll also talk about the way forward. So that's the main aim of this conversation. And of course, there'll be questions from the audience as well. So the 3 things we are talking about today is, the first one is about multi-layer taxation, which we all call multiple taxation. The second one is infrastructure deficits, and then the third one is issues around power. So again, so we won't focus on the problems, we'll focus on the solution. We'll talk about people who are innovating around it. We'll talk about things we could do better, and then we'll talk about what will be the expectation from the next 10 or 15 years. Now, to start the conversation today would be Mr. George. Sorry, can you please up? Okay, so it's 2 in 1 question, right? So the first question is, you were introduced as the CEO and Managing Director of Coleman Technical Industries, so which means you're more like a manufacturer in the cable and power business. Now, I would like to share with us how you've been able to navigate issues around multiple taxation, issues around infrastructure deficits in the course of doing your business, and what will be your main talking points or major takeaways as you've navigated these challenges?
Good morning, everyone. From a manufacturer's perspective, when you look at how do we navigate multiple taxation, the unfortunate part is that we're the worst hit by multiple taxation because we cannot take our machines or carry them anywhere. We're stuck in one place. And the unfortunate scenario is that multiple taxation is normally at your doorsteps, from local government to states to federal government, all having different agents. And the sad part is that they have multiple agents, so you don't even know who's the actual benefactor, who's the person taxing you, or who is directly or indirectly represented. So, but you're a manufacturer stuck in your area of production or in your area of location, which is really unmovable at the time. And you have to deal with each state's local government multiple taxation. The unfortunate part is that those that are actually trying to tax you are the same people looking for jobs for people that are related to them in your business. That's irony on its own. It doesn't make sense. You want to actually benefit. It's like eating your cake and having it at the same time. But you are also the guy literally at the doorstep of every manufacturer trying to collect money for one funny thing or the other. I'm sure quite a few manufacturers transport their goods from left to right of their different locations. And you have things that are simple things, which I still don't understand in this country, like haulage charges, that tells you charges that for every vehicle that goes in and out of your location, I must collect a fee. I think Nigeria has lost the plot when I heard that one. At the end of the day, are you telling a manufacturer to improve business or to derail in business? So multiple taxation is an hindrance to business, is an hindrance to growth. But until we actually see that the location of a manufacturer is to the benefit of that community and the state and the country as a whole, I think we would have a better viewpoint on generating growth, wealth, and employment. Now, if you now take that multiple taxation and then add on the infrastructural deficit. I was in a conversation with a gentleman some time back who happens to say, was asking, we're in a discussion, and he said, how many local governments are in Nigeria? And the man said, I said 774. He said, no, every business, every individual is a local government. Why? We're all providing our own infrastructure. So we'll get back to us, who is the local government? So you have a business that you have to provide your own water, your own road, your own power. Then I ask, what am I paying the fees for? But these are infrastructural deficiencies or hindrances to businesses that it's literally on the face of every manufacturer. But take the inefficiencies, take the deficiencies of the infrastructure. The fortunate part is that Nigeria seems to be just resilient in the ability to take every shock and still survive. Now, what I mean by that is that as much as we have this deficiency, this poor infrastructure, you still see investment coming into Nigeria. And you still see them making profit. And you beg to ask, why are they not all running away? And this is where I always try to encourage Nigerians, because we tend to look at things all on the negative rather than the opportunities over the negative. And the success of any business is to be optimistically positive over and above what you see that is negative. And what I mean by that is that it's a sad case. I'm a chairman, my dear DG, who's my friend and brother, I'm the chairman of Ogun State branch of MAN, also apart from what I do. And I look at this, it's as much as is, I've been there for 3 years, looking forward to my last year. You don't like telling me, saying that, but when you look at it, it begs to differ. Ogun State happens to be the state where the most manufacturers in Nigeria are coming into, because sincerely, location, cost to land, it's close to Lagos, it's an exit into the whole of the rest of Nigeria. So it has the largest amount of numbers of increase in new manufacturing development coming into the country. But you have to look at it that every time you're signing up a new member, and we have quite a bit, I still tell us we're number one in the country, but my brother will argue with me on one location, but irrespective, when you look at the number of people that one has to sign in as new members and do a comparative analysis of how many are indigenous Nigerians and how many are foreigners, you see the infrastructure problems, and you start to say that 7 out of every 10 is scaled to the foreigner. Wow. Only 30% is scaled towards the local guy. So when I make it a point of call because I have to sign the final approval before it goes to the HQ. And the first thing I'm looking for is what's the name of the proprietor or the founder. And I see one foreign name and I just say, you see. Now, if we say Nigeria is not good, and 7 out of 10 manufacturers sitting in this place or becoming new members are foreigners, then something is wrong somewhere. So the opportunity is instilled in the country. It's for us to now actually see beyond the infrastructural deficiency. Now, you take that, that's why I said, we have it. But we have to then take it away from where we are. So I was starting from the inefficient tax system, the deficiencies and the infrastructural problem, then tail it up to the opportunities. And that's the way I'll drive it. Now, tailing it up to the opportunities is really looking at everything in Nigeria on the long. If you shouldn't be manufacturing in Nigeria if you're thinking.
Thank you. Can you use?
It just went dead. Sorry. You shouldn't come into Nigerian market if you're thinking like a trader. It's just not going to work for you. The position of being in manufacturing in Nigeria has to be on the long. Any short process of your vision, it's really, you're going to be hindered by the amount of policy flip-flops, inconsistencies in the direction of government, change in government, FX issues, as my brother. One thing will kill you. If it doesn't kill you, you have survived a lot. And most manufacturers are either on the tail end of being killed as a business or surviving every scale of attack, basically, to be killed. So we have to look at it on the long. And what I mean by that is that no matter what, I inherited a business on a negative balance sheet of 20 million, more like 20 plus years ago. And at the time, everybody looked at it as a disaster of a business to inherit. Now, it took us, but we had to have a long-term view. It took us 2 years to actually just come out of that. Third year to actually see a position that was better. But the long-term view was that, what did we want to become? What did we want to do? Which basically means you have to reinvest. It has to be deliberate. Whatever you do, if you're not deliberate about being a manufacturer in Nigeria and taking the long view, which is where the delayed gratification issue comes in, and taking out the lifestyle issue from your business, you actually have the prospect of being able to. I mentor quite a lot of people. And when I look at it, when I mentor people, I ask them when they're in manufacturing, what is your 10-year goal of that business? If you don't have an answer for where you see that business in 10 years, even where you're working, please leave, because there's no staying power. And when you don't have a staying power in anything, that thing, you will actually collapse quicker than you think. So for manufacturing, the opportunities can be there. It's there. It's the long view that we have to take over and above the infrastructural deficiency, the policy inconsistencies. And I think the more of us shine in this business, and I mean the more Nigerians we push into the face of government, and they see as success story in manufacturing, the more they'll be forced to actually move policy in the right direction that does enable the manufacturers do a lot better. I'll just keep that while I come back, I'll allow other people to come in. Thank you.
Okay, so it's clearer now. Okay, so I think my major takeaway from all you've said is 7 out of 10 coming into Nigeria are mostly foreigners and 3 are Nigerians. So yes, you've highlighted their opportunities and there's a pathway for growth despite all of the challenges. So speaking of opportunities, let's talk to Dr. Esther, and you've been around for a while. And so in 2 minutes, can you share with us how have you been able to survive the macroeconomic headwinds that the country have gone through?
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. Okay, so in spite of all the challenges, running a manufacturing business in Nigeria is tougher. Number one is the issue of power. One, we've been able to go off grid, either with the hybrid system or the standalone system. Like in our manufacturing plants, we are setting up in Yola for sack production and all that. It's going to be 70% battery backup systems and 30% on the national grid. This is just to ensure continuous production line, because the machines are designed in a way that it has to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And once it is shut down, for you to kickstart the running of that machine, it takes a whole lot in terms of cost, in terms of the manpower that you need to bring in to begin to fix these parts together. So it simply means we had to find a way to make sure that we have consistent power so that these machines can run continuously. Then in another area challenging the manufacturing sector, and being particular to my business, we are in several areas like the solar business. I think that's when we have a leverage over our manufacturing plant at Yola. Another area is in the area what's it called, the area of financing. It's actually not easy, bringing out your raw finance, your equity. Though there are challenges there, but it simply means you have to make a long-term plan. So it doesn't matter that you're doing the business today and you have to impute the finances today. You have to make a plan. If it means 3 years, 4 years, that's what happened with the plant we are setting up in Kano for the ginger manufacturing and spices as well. It's a long-term plan, knowing that even getting loans from the bank is a whole lot, which is the double digits. So how do you mitigate that? It simply means you have to be strategic in your planning, and it has to be adaptable. Also, in the area of government coming in, it helps. One, collaboration with industrial collaborations, people in the same field, bringing ideas together helps in running this business, because it is actually not easy running it alone. No man is an island. So you need this input in terms of resources. You need input in terms of experience to ensure the proper working of your plant. What about the supply, the local supply content? Reliance on external supply is actually not feasible. We've done that over the years. It is not feasible. You have to make sure that you develop local suppliers so it can mitigate against raw materials, for you to get your source for raw materials, because over dependence on external sources, it simply means you run shortage of your inventory. And once there's a breakdown, it affects your cost, it affects your profit, and it affects your end users, because customers are not really loyal. Once they find out there's an alternative, don't give them that chance. They simply move to the next. That is the truth. So make sure you don't break that circle. So with these 3 major areas, we've been able to manage our manufacturing lines in relation to our business. Thank you.
Okay, so I think one consistent thing I've heard this morning is long-term planning and being deliberate about your investments. So we'll move to Mr. Adetunji, and can you share with us how businesses can reduce their risk exposure to some of these volatilities we've seen around, and what are those 1, 2, 3 things they need to put in place for more sustainable long-term businesses?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I think one of the things, especially manufacturers need to do, is adoption of technology. And we have seen this advantage, just like Mr. George mentioned, that 7 out of 10 investors that come to Nigeria, they are foreigners. So that means they are seeing opportunities in Nigeria we are not seeing. And that means opportunities are there. But how do you mitigate against all the challenges that, like Mr. Kadri have explained? And this is by probably look at the use of technology. One is in the case of cost, which is so one is cost. So how can you reduce cost in the midst of rising costs as we are seeing? The first thing you need to do is see where you can automate things, because you have a lot of overhead costs. We've implemented something similar to like digital transformation for a company, MOCA. I want to give MOCA as an example. And what we did is we implemented Internet of Things. We have this IIoT, whereby they are able to reduce the cost of handling their items at the production floor. And this reduced the overhead cost by 40%. So that means that 40% is saved from the cost of security that will check goods, counts. We have people that count. Then we have people that move items from one place to the other, that check the quantity of the items, that do the recording. So with the Internet of Things, with the IT, they are able to have all this information streamlined and transferred to the system. So at the end of the day, their information is accurate, and it reduces the numbers of men that checks all these items at every point of the movement of the item. That is one. And also in the case of integration of like payment, where a customer makes payment and this information is transferred into the system. Now take for example, if you have to employ like 4 or 5 people, somebody will check the banking environment. Let's say for example, you are making payments, customer is making payment, and you need to transfer this payment into your system for the customer to get credit and then for you to deliver the goods. Between that process of when the customer make payment and then when the credit is given to the customer, you can cut back the speed, the delivery time, the time when those information will be transferred to the system, and the numbers of people within that checking list. So at the end of the day, you reduce the overhead. So instead of employing somebody that will probably call the customer, have you paid? And then somebody that will check the banking platform, whether the payment has dropped, and then somebody that will now post into the system, you have eliminated 3 people. So now imagine that you just implemented your system once. And with this, you're able to cut the costs of all this overhead. You can plug that cost into your system, into your production process. So one of the things that we are advising manufacturers is look at your system. Look at things that you can automate. Because the more you automate your system, the more you can scale up. And then the more you become more efficient. Let's look at the example of quality. For example, now, people still use manual ways of checking every quality at every point in time, rather than just implement a system that can check your quality. And once you invest, if you can go through I know it's not that cheap, but if you can incur that cost once, the implication is you'll be able to scale up, and then you'll be able to get the return on investment of those automation. And also in terms of data analytics, like you said, because like you said, we have opportunities, we have population, we have youth. So why are we not making use of this, taking advantage of these opportunities? One is we have data, but we are not making use of it. And that's one of the problems of manufacturers in this country. You produce and you discover that you are not selling. So that means what you are just doing is you are just using your instincts instead of using your data. So why don't you do your customers' expectation? Do your research, know exactly what the customer wants. So if I produce to what customer want, so do I need to start looking for buyers again? Because the buyers are there. So these are the things that those foreigners are seeing that we are not seeing as Nigerians. And one of the major problems why most organizations in Nigeria, especially manufacturers, die is because they don't use data. I mean, before you start producing, are you not expected to research to what exactly customer wants? Are you not supposed to check even the quality? What is the essence of producing extra quality when people are not ready to pay for it? So you have to produce exactly the quality people want to buy, and then also you sell exactly the quantity people are ready to buy. And then also in terms of price, have you done your market research? These are some of the problems, and for me, especially from technology point of view, if we can adopt technology, just like you can see the case of financial institutions, I mean, nobody can imagine that you have like 6 banks in my palm, just on this. So I can do my transactions in all these 6 banks without stepping to their whole banking hall. So we should, especially for manufacturers, should think of this as well. Think of how you can use e-commerce, for example, to go beyond the borders. I mean, if I produce my item somewhere in Ondo State, I can have my product available in US, any part of the world. So these are the things I think manufacturers should imbibe into their operations. And this will reduce costs, increase their market shares in terms of availability where, people want their products, even in terms of the supply chain as well. Because I mean, the cost of moving your items up and down is very expensive. So why don't you find a way of selling your things online, whereby people can actually get to know your products from anywhere and they can order for it? There's a lot of ways you can actually make people even request for your item, and so that at any point in time, at any day, at any maybe 24 hours, people can order your products. Then you can put it across to any logistic company, and then they can get it delivered wherever they are. So with this, you can cost your cost. Then 2, you can make your items available from anywhere. At the same time, you can also increase your revenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we are gradually achieving what we set out to achieve. So we need to leverage on technology. We need to make use of automation. We need to, sorry. Yeah. So we need to make use of automation during the course of our business. And then, of course, leverage technology. I think one major area we've been silent about is the issue of multiple layer of taxation, multiple taxation. So how do we solve that? I remember Mans DG made mention of the fact that we still don't have a holistic industrial policy in Nigeria. So I would like to hear Mr. Olushola. So what major policy shifts do you think would solve the issue of multiple taxation in Nigeria, especially considering the fact that this is one of the biggest challenges everybody have alluded to today?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, everyone. First of all, while I congratulate BusinessDay for organizing this very useful forum at this particular time, I would have expected, or let me encourage them to, when next they are organizing this, to invite some government representatives. It will be useful because it's like all of us in this room, we are private sector people. I stand to be corrected. and we are now talking to ourselves. Because government agencies, they need to listen to some of this opinion, they need to respond to them wherever necessary. I know it's been beamed or streamed live, but that notwithstanding, it will be useful to have some of them here. Now, taxes. My brother, Mr. Ajayi Kadri, spoke about there is recent reforms which have now been passed by the National Assembly, and we wish that the implementation will start soonest. But as Mr. Onofokon said, the fact is that there are truancy behavior, truancy attitudes at local government and state levels, which we cannot pretend not to know. You drive a sales van in the Edo or wherever, and some people appear from nowhere with some wood with nails in front of your vehicle, or they even threaten to impound your vehicle. I mean, a sales vehicle, for God's sake. I think, and that's why I'm saying, we need government representatives here. We need to move away from the desire for immediate income generation by governments at all levels to long-term visionary planning if we want this country to develop. There is this hasty move when any new administration comes in, at any level, local government, state or federal, to raise revenue from wherever sources. And politicians even boast that when I was here, I tripled IGR. What did you do with it? And how did you impact on development? So we need to, have a visioned focus for development for this country, so that all agencies can key into it, and even private sector agencies like banks can key into it. If they know that we have priority areas that we want to develop, we have like the solid mineral sector, for instance, that is yet to be fully formalized. I mean, the development of that sector is still hanging. I think for that sector, you can employ far more people to process these various minerals that we've got, and government will even realize more taxes if that area is formally developed. So it's not just about taxes on the surface. Truancies at those levels, they have to be dealt with, and there is for bad behavior by these local government and state government officials who collect below the table, taxes in quotes. Some of these things are not even going to the pockets of the government. Anyway, they are truancy. That's the only word I can use for it. It's not. They are not being patriotic. They are not keen in generating income for government. They just want to make money by all means. Now, talking about bank rates, there are specialized development finance institutions that are focused on financing capital projects. We know them: Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry, Development Bank, and so on. And they are to be empowered to lend money at single-digit rates. For commercial banks, normally you are supposed to go to commercial banks for working capital anyway. And it will be difficult for a commercial bank to lend money to anybody below the inflation rate, because that means they'll be losing revenue themselves. So if inflation is not tamed, the CBN can be setting the MPR rates for all they care. It will be irrational for any commercial bank to lend money to anybody below the inflation rate. So it behoves on government and the CBN to tame inflation. Inflation is a problem to individuals and to businesses. I recall in the past, businesses used to run yearly budgets as well. Which will now key into their medium-term and long-term goals. And when you run yearly budgets, you have figures for your inputs that's your raw materials and so on. And we have projected figures for your outputs, that is what you intend to sell, realize from sales. In Nigeria of today, where prices change on everyday basis, your prices of inputs, they change from, on everyday basis. How do you run corporate budgets sustainably? That is a problem. So we have to find a way between the federal government and the CBN to tame inflation on a serious note. I think these are basic, and then of course, for the energy, permit me, Mr. Moderator, the discos are running monopolies. Yes, you may create alternative forms of energy, but we know that to some level, we also rely on the public grid system. And because they are monopolies, for example, let me use my own company, my own organization. We used to pay averagely $350 for within the GRA Ikeja. But in the last 1 month, they came, they deactivated all the meters in the building, and they said we must run a single meter from the pole. I had to pay 1.35 this last month. You know, we are not manufacturing anything. It's just an office with computers, maybe a few ACs, and so on. So I can imagine if you're a manufacturing facility and all of a sudden within a month, your charges are being tripled for no justifiable reasons. So these are critical elements which can, hit hard or impact significant, particularly on small businesses. The BATs of this world can take care of themselves. The shells of this world and chevrons of this world can take care of themselves. But the small businesses will be badly hurt by these small decisions that are very important to their operations. So back to taxes, I think the only way for me, the only recommendation I may have is for government to try and reduce the corporate tax. Because I understand from Mr. Falcon that there is an extra 3% education tax as well. If you can bring that down, maybe it will help industry and enterprise. I think those will be my few comments for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll still stay with you, Mr. Olushola. You made mention of we need to prioritize small and medium-scale businesses because they are the engine room for any vibrant economy. So my question is there a possibility of your chamber engaging with governments at different level for any major policy shifts? Because yes, the government officials, I agree completely with you that they should be in conversations like this. But then again, if we don't offer harm of approach, or we don't offer to collaborate with them, it's difficult for us to solve some of these issues or challenges we've talked about. So my question is there a possibility of collaboration in terms of solving any of the problems you've identified? Even the transient behavior of the local government or the state's government officials you paid attention to?
Thank you very much. I'm glad the DG of Man is here because we work together under the aegis of the organized private sector of Nigeria, together with NECA, NASI, and NASME. And let me go to specific examples. A while ago, we were meeting, holding meetings on engaging the Lagos State Parking Authority, or whatever they are called. There was a time they were clamping vehicles indiscriminately, and that became something of a problem. We had issues with water charges at a point, and then we had to engage collectively the Lagos State Water Authority. Sometimes it might be the Environmental Protection Agency. We are always engaging these bodies. But like I said, there is this deliberate income generation mindset by government bodies. If I become the GM of a government agency, I believe that the best way for me to prove myself to my master or leader is to increase my income generation. We are not development focused. No, whatever we do with this income that we generate is another issue entirely. Nobody knows. So it's difficult to explain to people why people should pay more for anything because the impact is not visible. So it is a continual engagement thing that we have been having with them for ages. But you see that their mind is made up. All they are interested in is raising their internal generated revenue. And that seems to be the only thing that is priority in their minds. And that's why I'm saying maybe we need to have some government agencies here so that they can listen to us as we speak. Because manufacturers are here, people from the media, they are here, people from the organized private sector bodies are here, and maybe they will be able to understand these issues better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Dr. George, I go back to you again. So yes, so policies can be unpredictable, but I mean, you would agree with me that no matter how unpredictable they are, we still need to, you need to obey the law. The law is the law. You need to obey the law at different points in time, whether we are comfortable with it or not. So as a business, how do you balance obeying the law, especially when you're uncomfortable with it, and then surviving as a manufacturer in Nigeria?
Now, being factual, obeying the law is something you cannot even contend with. The law is the law. The rule books of what you're obeying in business, you have to adhere to it. Now, I'll give examples. Now, the standard says whatever we do, we have a standard, especially for the cable industry. We work by the SON, NIS, Nigerian standards to actually make cable. Proud to say that we're the only industry that every Nigerian will say, go and buy made in Nigeria. Nobody wants to buy an imported product because we've kept standards. Now, the law and the institutes and the agencies that enable standards actually have protected Nigerians long enough to believe that made in Nigerian cable is the best for them to buy. But be it may, in between that, then you still have the unscrupulous ones. In the old days was all about importation of substandard cable. Immediately everybody knew that made in Nigeria was the actual cable to buy. You then had people that will import cable and put Nigeria on top of it just because they actually just want to sell. Now, but the implication is that you have someone selling below the standard and actually trying to sell below the cost of what another manufacturer producing locally is actually being able to do. The sad part is that, yes, for the local manufacturers who have to adhere to standards, there are the elements that don't want to adhere to the standards. But you have to want to believe that whatever you're doing is you have to innovate your business to actually be able to be more efficient, to actually be able to be in business. So efficiency really is the key to actually to overcome all regulations or laws that actually put you into the business that conform to what you do. So for me, quality is something you cannot compromise on, because I'm selling cable to people putting it in their houses that 15% or 20% of this total investment could burn down 80%. So you cannot afford to even be objective of that. It is either I want to go to sleep at home or not. And for me, I rather want to go to sleep. So the reality is that for every business, there must also be the consciousness of what do you want to sell as a standard? Do you want to be known for the standard of quality of what you do? Or do you want to, because of certain laws, certain standards that are set by the government, actually cut your specification to, I want to disagree with a bit of my friend here, say make the cable according to the quality of the customer requirements. I don't think those might be the wrong way of us thinking, because in any business you are, there must be a body or a standard governing what you do. And as a manufacturer, and once that is there, you are not allowed to go below that specification. If you do, then something is wrong somewhere. So for me, as a rule book, we must first follow the standards that are generated, that has created an industry that every Nigerian is proud of today. And secondly, once you've done that, the key thing is then to actually be able to fight the regulators to do their job, for God's sake, sometimes. So you have to fight SON to, as much as they want to instill standard on the local manufacturer, they should instill standards on the importers. So if you're importing rubbish and you're busy chasing the local manufacturers and going to their place 3-4 times a year, charging them fees to check their standards, charging all sorts of fees from local government to check, from the guys checking weight and measure, guys checking on standards of the cable, to the guys even on implementing contracts. So those are the things that we have to guide against, to actually look at how do these influence the decisions of the pricing of the product, and how do we mitigate as a business, as a manufacturing sector, against this unscrupulous end of the market. So the key thing is that really manufacturers will maintain standards, and I believe manufacturing standards in Nigeria are actually quite high. It's sad that sometimes we go out of Nigeria and everybody's looking at made in Nigeria as being the bad egg. But sincerely, you go out of Nigeria and you find that made in Nigeria is actually far better. But the perception is so wrong that we're getting into those countries. We went into Ghana, we saw that, and everybody, someone said to me, can you not write made in Turkey or made in India for something coming from Nigeria? And I said, I don't think anything you guys are producing, and we checked the standards. What we're producing is even actually higher in standard than what they are using. And I said to her, it doesn't make sense. If we cannot come into your country with my tag made in Nigeria, I'm not coming into your country. But I'll break down the barriers of the made in Nigeria with our product, and we're able to do so. But you have to be deliberate that you're not going to change your made in Nigerian status for anybody, because you actually know the standards and the level of which you have attained to actually go into those countries. So key function of regulators is for us to try to adhere to the regulators, but for us to tell the regulators, to tell those outside the manufacturing sector to adhere to the same rule book, so that the traders, the importers that are competing with you or dumping goods are not doing specifications. And unfortunate part of business in Nigeria is that most people look at price first. And that should be the last thing. Because it's so easy for me to look at price and I've played you. Now, for instance, in my own industry, everybody thinks of a coil of cable. But the Standards Organization standard rule book for a coil of cable is 100 meters. 99% of people buying a coil of cable don't even know what the length of that coil should be. So to them, they just see something is round, it's called, it's cable. Okay. But if I sell you a cable at 80 meters and I make it 5% cheaper than in other Nigerian cable, I've made far more profit than you think, because I've got 20% off the cable. So there's so many unscrupulous ways that people actually think. So they look at the price, but they're actually not looking at the specification. They're not looking at the standards. And those are the things that either have, we shouldn't be penny wise, pound foolish. 10% investment should not be something you see as saving money on, because it's going to either burn your 80% or 85% of your investment down the drain. Okay. And those are the things that we need to keep educating. We, even in our industry, keep re-educating the consumer that don't look at the price first, because the price might actually look cheaper, but it's not. Because if I've reduced 40% of the material and giving you an impression that it's 5% cheaper, I've made 35% more profit plus on the profit. Exactly. So the opportunity for the person actually, I also say, one thing is, the reality is, anybody that is a criminal is not doing criminality for normal profit. He's doing criminality for abnormal profit. You're not a criminal that wants to make normal profit. Otherwise, you'll be the distributor. But because you want to make abnormal profit is why you are the criminal. And those are the things that must set us aside when we are thinking of the standards and the regulator and us as manufacturer to actually be able to keep ourselves in business. Thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause for him, please. So, Dr. Esther, can you speak in 2 minutes about issues of quality? Since I know, of course, you're in the procurement arm of the manufacturing sector. So how do you maintain quality in an environment that is very, very, everybody is just moving along very quickly and yeah, so that's it.
Okay, the typical Nigerian is price sensitive. That's what the last speaker just made mention of. You can actually make profit reducing your quality, and to them, you have outplayed them actually. But for you to maintain quality, it has to be a deliberate act. Number one, the quality control department must be effective. It is very important. They keep it to standard, because in your business, you're not looking at just the short run, you are looking at sustainability. It has to outlive the times. What happens afterwards? Because by the time it outlives the time, that's when you begin to reap your profit. So if you want to, like the local parlance, want to eat with both hands now, you may think you're winning. So in terms of quality, you may not win at this time, but in the long run, it will even be on autopilot. So for us, we are big on quality control. Then in terms of the supply chain, that is an area we have to look in. That's the areas of procurement, because in sourcing for your raw materials, the quality starts from that process. So you have to make sure your raw materials are of high quality, high standards. The truth is that once you're an expert, you know the difference between substandard and the standard raw materials. So which do you source first? So from the ground, make sure your raw materials are of good quality where you procure them. Then your quality control in terms of the finished product, it is very, very important. They're looking at the control organizations, like the last speaker I just mentioned, like the SON, and you have to make sure that those things, they meet up to standards. It's not just for your own good for the organization, but for the face of the Nigerian manufacturing economy. It transcends beyond just your factory. It goes in, even on the international stage, it can stand the test of time. So these are the things that you can actually put together to make sure that you maintain quality in the face of challenging issues.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So we'll take one parting shot from everyone, and then if there is a question, we'll take 1 or 2 questions before we round up this panel session. So, in 1 minute, I would like, starting from you, sir, I'd like you to give us just in 1 minute, summarize where you would want Nigeria's manufacturing sector to be. Okay. What would be your dream manufacturing sector in Nigeria?
Okay, so my advice is for them to take up automation, because it's a way to reduce your costs. Is a way to scale up. So look at technologies like cloud, where you can work from anywhere, so that means you have your information stored on the cloud. Then you can, your MD, anybody can access your information. You have a kind of lean operation. So you reduce your overhead costs, so you don't have to, as your business grows, you continue to grow your back-end, staff. So that means you can have a very small overhead staff in terms of maybe admin staff. Then you have more of your production team, So you don't have to continue to grow your business with numbers of staff, of having accountants, having HR manager, because these are actually these are not critical to your operation. So you face your entire, in fact, you can even outsource some of the things that is not really critical to your operations, like accounting, like IT, like tax, like, security, any other thing, so that you face exactly what your business is all about, which is production and selling. And so, I mean, everybody believe here that their potentials are there. So, and the best way for us to do is to look at technology, look at things you can automate to scale up your business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, next.
I think for me, it's all about innovation. We need to innovate our businesses. Now, I'll take automation not from the digital perspective, but from the process of engineering. Now, what that basically means is that we need to automate our process of production. The more we automate that, we actually inbuild QA, QC into the process, where you take the human factor out of that process of production. The assumption that we have is that labor is cheap, labor is cheap, you can start production easily. But believe me, because labor is cheap, labor thinks they're doing you a favor at that cheap level. Which means that every error that is created is greater than the loss of the total cost of paying that person for 1 year or even 5 years. So it's not recoverable, because at that cheap labor, the person is doing you a favor. So me, I always say, look, target in 8 hours of work. If you're a manufacturer and you cannot get your guy to sit down for at least 4 to 5 hours, it's a very costly labor for you, no matter how cheap that labor is, because the cost to error is higher than your profitability, and it's not recoverable from that labor in terms of payback. So if that person makes a mistake while in production, believe me, you can't take it from their salary. You deduct first month, that person will leave the next month, and there's nothing you can do about it. So the reality is, make labor as easy as possible by automating your processes. The capex at the beginning might be high, but it's better for you. Reinvest in powers of alternatives. Lady from BAT said it. We're totally off the grid for the last 5 years. I don't even know what diesel looks like. I'm not on the grid. I'm not. But we deliberately, in 2015, expended and took a fund to actually put into gas power. Today, we have over 25 megawatts of power that is embedded for ourselves only, both in gas and in solar. So you need to be deliberate about your alternative to power. That, if I'm still using diesel today, believe me, I will have been closed down by now, because the number of trucks of diesel I'll use per month, it will just not be possible for me to be able to do business in Nigeria today. So innovate. As you innovate, think on the long term. And most importantly, in Nigeria, please take your view, if you're in manufacturing, on the long. Don't take a short position. And what I mean by that is retain as much as possible of your profit in that business in the first 10 years. If possible, 90 to 95%. It's delayed gratification that reinvest into expansion and capacity efficiency that guarantees you tomorrow an early retirement. So if you think about it in that way, you actually can survive a lot better in Nigeria by doing those few things. Thank you.
Thank you.
My last message will be to say chin up to all manufacturers. We appreciate them for their contribution to this economy, their capacity to create jobs, and that's why we are keen to see them grow, because if they grow, they will definitely employ more hands. And of course, the government also needs the money they are collecting from them as corporate taxes. So they're a critical element in this economy. So we encourage them, we thank them for the wonderful job they are doing, and we say, just chin up. There is a silver lining ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my last word. As a nation, for us to make progress, we need a 180-degree turn, a reorientation. And I'm really happy with what you're doing. Yeah. So we need to have confidence in our products. So it simply means our hands must be on deck to ensure that the quality of products we put out there, they are up to standard. They are of quality that it can withstand the test of time. So with this, the orientation of made in Nigerian goods are not good begins to erode. It may take time, but it will fade gradually until it disappears. And we are back to accepting our goods. Like the fashion industry, they are doing so well. The average Nigerian woman puts on Ankara. We want to make our local clothes. On the international stage, our designers are doing so well. So you can see there's a turn in that area. So that can happen in every other aspect of the manufacturing sector, irrespective of the area that you are. And with time, Nigeria will be great again. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take just one question, and before we wrap up, just one. Okay. Yeah. So just briefly, your question in 30 seconds. Please just be as brief as possible so we don't.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ibka Michael. I'm a book vendor and a radio presenter with Jordan FM. My question goes to Mr. George and the man sitting beside him. Sorry, I don't know your name. How do you fight the government? I heard when Mr. George said we need to fight SON, and I saw his body language. So, the reason for that question is this.
The fight is not a physical.
I'm coming, let me land. The reason for that is, last week I was privileged to be in a conference, Federal Ministry of Trade Investment, and for the first time I wanted to join the government because they fed us for like 4 days. We went to Dangote refinery. That's the first time I'll go on a convoy in my life. Last month, follow us. Mobile, ambulance, security. I said, this is a very sweet experience. I've never been. So my question now is, I spoke with one of them. I tried to ask her questions. She won't answer. She said that public servants are seen. They are not heard. That's the first time I will hear. That's a director in government. I said, ma, I want to. She refused to give any answer. She said public. So how do you now fight this government people? Because to me, they are enjoying.
Okay, okay. Thanks.
So,
thank you for your question. Mr. George, will you take the question in 30? No, just.
It's a difficult ask. How do you fight government? We don't have, none of us have the resources to fight government. The reality is we have to go through advocacy of man, Nasima, as much that you have to be collective. You can't fight government on your own. You're very right. The lifestyle in government is we get paid whether we do it right or not. And the next thing they're doing is what my brother said earlier. It's all about IGR, internal generated revenue. Once they make money, nobody cares what else is happening. But we have to be deliberate. When you're fighting government, look at it this way. Unfortunately, government doesn't see you when you are doing anything, but they see you when you are big enough to make an impact on whatever they're doing. So what you have to do as an individual, build your business to the level where and when they are forced to see you, they're forced to hear you. So for me, government is all about force them to hear you. So if you are a DG or a minister, I have built myself as a Nigerian to the level I can force you to sit down. Because I am employing 800 Nigerians and I'm still increasing in employment, and you must sit down to hear me. Because where you are sitting is because I am paying those taxes. If I'm not paying it, you cannot be talking to me anyhow. So we have to be deliberate. We grow ourselves to force them to hear. And once they don't hear, you can openly, as long as you know what you're doing is right, you can come out to the paper and literally call out. I've called out a minister before, and literally I was called to actually person's office to say, why are you calling out our minister? I said, the minister is not doing what she's supposed to do. I don't need a minister parading herself all over the place. I need the impact of that minister. So I can openly call out the minister. And I'm not a politician, so I have to think of the workforce we have. So we as Nigerians have to be deliberate, because if we are not, all we're seeing is our selfish gain, then we cannot make any impact. Our impact has to be selfless and has to be the gains of everybody and not individuals. Thank you.
Anyway, that's a wrap, and thank you all for listening to us. I'm sure you've learned one or two insights on how to break barriers and how to survive in the times we live in. Thank you all once again for your time, really. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so while they take these pictures, please let Miss Odiri Erewa from BAT please be on standby, as well as Marvis Oduogu from Stren and Blan, as well as Mr. Shegun Ajayi, DG of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and the editor of Business Day, Mr. Tayo Fagule, as well as Mr. Olushola Obadimu, the DG of Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA. Please come forward for a group photograph. Yes, no, not you. Yes, sir. You, who is Mr. Olushola? Mr. Olushola Obadimu, yes, sir. Yeah. Who else is not here? Mr. Shegun Ajayi, the DG of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. All right. Marvis. Okay, see. Yeah, come. Thank you very much to our first panelists for such a brilliant session. We'd also like to thank our sponsors who have made this event successful. We're still proceeding in the event, but just to thank them as we go, we'd like to thank British American Tobacco, West and Central Africa. We'd like to thank the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. We'd like to thank NASIMA. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Stren and Blan Partners, Zeta Mine Consulting Limited, Amo Farm Hatchery Limited, as well as Golden Penny Foods. Please, can you put your hands together for our first panelists for doing justice to that conversation? I know we're very cold, but we'll just need to keep doing this. We'll have another presentation now, and this presentation will be handled by the team lead of the FMCG sector for Stren and Blan Partners, Mr. Marvis Oduogu. Please put your hands together as he comes up for his presentation.
Good afternoon. I want to first of all confirm from the time that my good afternoon is truly a good afternoon. Okay, quickly, I'm going to, carry every one of us along on a very key factor that drives the economy. But the factor is so, will I call it minute, that there is this temptation to overlook it. And once you overlook it, you start eating deep. And then you are unable to achieve the full potentials of what you need to achieve. What I'm going to discuss very quickly is on labor. Labor is a very key factor of production because it is first unique, and it is also, it has something to do with human relationship. And when you talk about relationship, you talk about emotions playing in. And you must be intelligent enough, knowledgeable enough to be able to understand how to guide and this human relationship in order to maximize the potentials that you have as a manufacturer. Now, the topic of my presentation, like is reflected on the screen, is recurring legal, labor, and employment relations issues for strategic. I made use of that word strategic because it has to be strategic. The last panelist, they pointed out that if you don't have a 10 years view of where you want to be, perhaps you are going to miss it, and you have no business being either a manufacturer or an entrepreneur. Now, for a strategic workforce and workplace management. Thank you. So I want to start first. But if you look at many companies today, you will find out that one of the things that has pulled them down is the reputation they have in the market. And this reputation has not come from either their client or from external bodies or even the government. But the reputation has come from people that has worked with them. Why? A house divided against itself can never do what? Stand. It can never stand. So I'm going to be picking some of these issues one after the other. I've highlighted some of them in the next slide, please. I've highlighted them, and I'm going to be picking them one after the other. But a quick issue I'm going to pick out is the recurring word or phrase that is used in the courts today. And the courts, by court I mean the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, that's a court you can classify as a labor court. Once you pick up the judgment of a National Industrial Court, or you go to the National Industrial Court to observe proceedings, most times you find this word going on: unfair labor practices. Unfair labor practices. And as a manufacturer, as an employer, you want to ask yourself, what amounts to unfair labor practices? There is that temptation to think that unfair labor practices is only situate or is peculiar to employers when it comes to employers relating to employees. You may want to think that unfair labor practices does not apply to what employees do. But today we are going to correct that narrative. Unfair labor practices, unfortunately, has not received a direct definition under the Constitution or under the Nigerian labor law. But from activities and judicial decisions made, we understand that unfair labor practices are those practices that are issued that infringe on the rights of the employee or the employer. And I'm going to mention some of them. As I mention them, I want you to take time and reason as an employer of labor. Are these practices found in your workplace? As an employee, do you replicate same to your employers? The first unfair labor practice that we've always seen is the issue of salary deduction. When an employee comes to work late, then you find the employer saying, okay, you think you can behave anyhow here, I will deduct your salary. The question is it fair? Is it lawful? Section 5 of the Nigerian Labour Act has stated that salary deduction is what? Not permitted, except the prior concept of the employee is sought and obtained. And I'm going to give you a clear instance for that. During the COVID-19 period, something happened and businesses went off business for some time. In such instances, there was a heightened temptation on the part of the employers to do what? Reduce the salaries of what? Of workers. Is that the first thing to do as an employer is to write and communicate the difficulties you are having as a business. The second thing to do is to seek and obtain the consent of what? The employees. And then finally, those that gave their consent, you can go ahead and reduce or deduct what? Their wages. I move out of that. The next and often reoccurring unfair labor practices that we have seen is where some employers will insist that employees must submit their original copies of their credentials as security to retaining their jobs. This is also what? An unfair labor practice. Employees must keep, bring your credentials, the original copies of it, keep it as security till the day you are done or we no longer need your service. That is an unfair labor practice. Another unfair labor practice is the act of standing up and then dismissing an employee. You dismiss it and you said your services is no longer required. Simplicity. No reason, nothing proffered, nothing explained. The court has held it to be what? An unfair labor practice. Other forms of unfair labor practice that we've seen and that is very, very recurring is the processes of what? Now, employees believe that the unfair labor practices is always coming from the employers. Now, I'm going to give you an instance where an employee can engage in an unfair labor practice against an employer. An employer has taken the pain of going through the interview session and informed an employee, okay, to start up and provided to the employee that this is the period that are your probationary period, and that has been accepted. And then just 2 months into the thing, because the employee have seen a better paid job, the employee just walks away from the work. Walking away from your job is an unfair labor practice. Another unfair labor practice is where an employer refuses to accept the resignation of an employee because to the employer, oh no, you are still under investigation. Told 100 million, you are still under investigation. How on earth can you resign by this time? And then you say your resignation is not accepted. The court has held it an unfair labor practice. Actually, I can go on and on and on and on to even explain more instances of unfair labor practice, but I am constrained by time. You see employers telling employees, you don't have a right to leave. The leave, I mean your annual leave or the benefits that come to it, that comes with it, it is what? An unfair labor practice. Now, I'll move away from the instance of unfair labor practice. I go into another terms or another issue that I know that is recurring. And that issue is the issue of what is called vicarious liability. You are an employer of labor, you young man, and the young man takes up a car and he is the official driver of the company. And then you send him for the routine work he moves about with. And then all of a sudden you now discover the man you sent to Ogun State has been found somewhere in Benue, that he destroyed someone's farmland and they've held him in that village. And then they called you. The moment they see your name and see the company, they say, well, why are you beating up this, not well-paid driver or something? Why don't you go for the gas? Go for the guys. The company can pay the heavy money, and they come to you. And the issue you notice, they take you to court. Vicarious liability. How do you, as an employer, protect yourself against what? Being vicariously liable for the unauthorized actions of your employees? Want to consider briefly. Now, vicarious liability is legal under the law. But what is expected of an employer to minimize, or a manufacturer to minimize exposure to vicarious liability is one, you must consciously put it down in writing. And when I mean putting it down in writing, it ought to be inculcated in what? In the terms of your contract of employment. Give instances if you can. If it will make us, then push it to what we know as the employee's handbook, and then make the employee's handbook, incorporate it into the terms of of employment. That's incorporate it into the contract of employment. How do you incorporate it? It's a very simple thing. Put a simple clause in that employment letter that the terms of this employment letter, as well as the other terms contained in the employee's handbook, which is issued to you at the same time, will govern the state and will govern the obligations, or will govern the terms of your work with the company. That way, you would have taken care of whatever that would have come up, or you would have minimized it to a reasonable length. That is for issue of vicarious liability. Another issue I'm going to talk about is the issue of trade union. We've had issues where you see company gather some group of people and then say, we no longer need your services because you are involved in trade unionism, or you are involved as a member of social trade union. The court have held that to be what? An unfair labor practice, and it's not allowed. One, under the Constitution, there is freedom of association. So once you, as an employer, you opened your business, you've opened your business in this area, and then you find out that workers working under you then come one day and tell you, Oga, we have organized ourselves and we are now speaking to you as members of social trade union, or we have already registered our own trade union. What do? It is not for you to start fighting, to stay, give instruction to the HR and say, oh, yeah, issue them their letter of termination. Let them go. I had the dream of this business before they ever came. I can employ other people and replace them. No. What you do is to sit down and have what is known as a collective bargaining agreement. Collective bargaining agreement is where you sit down and you map out your terms, and then the trade union map out their terms, and then there is a consensus addendum. There is an agreement of the minds on what and how to proceed, and to see that both work and the conditions of service move smoothly. That is one part. Then the final part I want to touch, I'm trying to manage the time that is given to me here. I just have about 10 minutes or 15 minutes here. Is the process of discipline of work. If I've handled labor issues up to 200, I think 156 has always revolved around this issue of discipline of workers. When a worker has been found to have broken a rule, what do we do? First of all, you take what is known as the proactive step. The proactive step to ensure a fair process of dealing with discipline, to ensure that it is contained in the letter of employment, or in the contract of employment, or in the rules of employment. If you can't bring everything under that letter of employment, of course, put it in the employee's handbook. Let it be detailed on how you can go about to discipline a worker that has erred or a worker that has breached the rules of the company. Now, number two, when you have detailed this, ensure that when such event occurs, that you follow the process you have outlined. We see many a times employers moving away from what they have already stated in their handbook, because either this employee has some color, has some, is favored above the others, or the circumstances or the situation is a bit peculiar or unique. Please, whenever you are moved, with John, please ensure that you stay right to what has been written. And then, speaking of what has been written, ensure that what has been written does not break principally the rule of fair, the literal rule of fair hearing. Number one, if you are the accuser, when I mean you now, I'm talking about the employer, please ensure that you are not also the judge in that matter. That's the first principle of fair hearing. And then the second principle is make sure that you hear the other party, no matter how grievous that thing is. You can come to work one day and they say, Oga, that man that you employed as your gatekeeper, that man stole 2 million. That 2 million we've been looking for. We saw it in his room. Ordinarily, as a human being, you will be so angry. I've been paying you. I've even taken you like a family. Get away. You sack, you dismiss, you publish everything, snap his picture everywhere. If you have any dealings with him, I don't want to deal with him again. That temptation may be there. But please, before you take that step, restrict yourself and then try and follow the laid down rules. What's the simple laid down rules? Try and call him and let another person, explain what has happened. This is what we find with you. What is your own response to it? Always ensure to give time for the person to respond. The minimum time you can give may be a 24-hour response. 24-hour response. The truth is that we don't have time to go through this, but I wish we had time, because I was going to take even more questions and explain in details what it means. The Supreme Court in their matter has always explained that the minimum satisfaction of the requirement of fair hearing is the issuance of what? Query. Issue a query and then inform the that you need a response from him or her, and give time for him or her to respond to whatever allegations that is found in that query. When the time given has elapsed, you can then go ahead to do what? Issue what? Your response. Please make sure that at the end of the day, you take a decision. If the decision is to pardon the worker, put it down in writing the same way you put down the query in writing. If the decision is to go ahead, to terminate or to go ahead to do, please ensure to put it down in writing. I have many other issues, outsourcing contract, tripartite, employment, and many of them, but for want of time, I won't go deep into them. Please, the program is still on, or the conference is still on, but if there are any questions that bothers you on key labor issues, because I'm interested, because this is the manufacturing sector, and when you talk laborers, or when you talk about employment, when you talk about workers and employees and relationship, employers and employees relationship, if there is any other sector it plays a key role, it is the very manufacturing sector. I thank you for your time and listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Marvis Oduogu, the team lead for the FMCG sector at Stren and Bland Partners. Have enough time, if not, we would have been able to take a lot more on that presentation. But I hope you all found it impactful. Please put your hands together for Mr. Marvis once again. And don't forget, you can meet him up with your questions and contributions to just share more insights. We'll be going to our second panel session, our second and final panel session for today. And this session will be focused on public-private partnerships, unlocking investment for sustainable manufacturing growth. And on this panel, I'll be calling our panelists, please, in no particular order. As they come up, please put your hands together for them. I'll be calling up Dr. Chinyere Almona, the Director General and CEO of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ably represented by the Director for Research and Advocacy, Dr. Sonny Omeza Michael. Please sustain the applause till they get up stage. Thank you. And also on this panel is Dr. Babatunde Ajayi, the General Manager of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, well represented by Tolulokpe Ayodele, the Executive Assistant to the Governor on Environmental Protection Matters. Thank you very much. And still on this panel, we have Dr. Olasupo Olusi, the Managing Director for the Bank of Industry, ably represented by Victor Agina, the Deputy General Manager and the Group Head for Agro-Processing, Large Enterprises Directorate. Please sustain the applause, thank you. And on this panel, certainly not the least, is Mr. Edward Ogumekon, the Chief Growth Officer at Sterling Bank. And to moderate this panel session, we have Mr. Jimmy Ogbobine, the Head of Agosto Consulting. Please put your hands together for our... Please sustain the applause, thank you. Let's keep it charged up, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone, and good afternoon to our esteemed panelists. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay. So without taking more time, I think we're fast spent. We'll just go straight into the conversations of today. Dr. Sonny, permit me to start with you. We'll try and take as much as, or should I say as little as 3 questions. First question, everyone has an intro. Second question, and then if we've got enough time, we have a closeout for the third questions. Let's keep it, at least for each of the first 2 questions, within 4 minutes, and then we'll have about a minute or 2 for our wrap-up questions. Okay? So, Dr. Michael, permit me to ask the first question, start with you. We're talking about PPPs and the importance of PPPs in manufacturing, public-private partnerships in manufacturing. So the first question I'll ask from an advocacy perspective and the work you do with manufacturers and other stakeholders, what institutional weaknesses do you think we need to address before PPPs in manufacturing can become truly scalable and investor attractive?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to BusinessDay for this hosting. We are quite interested in anything that supports industry, that supports manufacturing, that supports commerce in Nigeria. I'm coming from the perspective of an advocacy body like the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We're quite interested to know how partnerships between the private sector and government thrives. So, but one of the issues, of course, that so many of us in this room will attest to as a weakness in that space. We want to do a lot together because we believe there's so many things that government alone cannot do. Now that only you cannot do this, you need the partnership or collaboration with the private sector. But we know that there are some weaknesses in this process. And one of them, maybe one we can quickly talk about, is when you hear about past failures of such projects, you tend to have a mindset that if this has failed before, why will I go into it? How am I sure I'm going to have a different or better story to tell? The second weakness that must be taken care of is weak institutions that enforce these partnerships or contracts. That partnership becomes a contract enforced. You having something, we are agreeing to do something together. There must be a strong regulatory framework that guides how that process goes. If that is not there, then there's room for compromise. There's room for breaches, which is what we see, which is what we've seen, causing much of the failures we've seen in that process. So what we can advise, if we want to truly have an attractive manufacturing PPPs, is to see how we continually build strong institutions. I would say strong institutions, we're talking of institutions that can outlive administrations. So we also have the challenge of you have to start a PPP with government in this administration. There's a possibility that when a new government comes in and it says, well, I don't understand, I don't want to follow what you signed with the former administration, we are closing this partnership, we are opening another one, or they start to bring new conditions, and because there's truly not really any strong framework that has been established, then you're unable to enforce any breaches. And so you just count your losses and move away. That has happened before. And that's what I'm talking about. Being is a weakness in itself to the system. When I hear such, then I'm going to come to you, I'm going to come to government to sign contracts that will last for the period of the incumbent government. Not too sure. If we cross to another government, I can sustain that partnership. That on its own is not is a weakness, because most of the PPPs will thrive when they are long term, not short 4 years term. It has to be 10 years, 20 years. That's when you start to reap the benefits. So these are some of the weaknesses we have in the system that must be dealt with, but clearly we need stronger institutions that go beyond. We don't need strong men, we need strong institutions. And again, you know the problem between politics and economics. When the PPP is being signed, it's signed on the basis of economics. It is good to put it here, it will achieve this, it will impact this, so let's do it. But when it starts, then politics comes in. I can tell you, economics is silenced. And then politics takes the way, and the things are done the way the politicians want it done. So these are things I think we need to clear out from our system for PPP. And then let's tell more stories of our successes that we have made. Thank you. Let me stop there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sonny. Now, Ms. Ayodele, if I will come to you. Right now, you're executive assistant on environmental protection matters. And the way businesses take it, and the businesses are here to confirm that, is that environmental compliance is also often viewed as a cost center by manufacturers. Okay? So how can a well-designed PPP arrangement turn sustainability obligations, which includes environmental compliance, into business opportunities, whereby businesses are not looking at this as a cost center, which means it's a burden, but as a business and a viable opportunity? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, in actual fact, environmental compliance is not necessarily a cost center, because for us in LASEPA, our aim is against environmental pollution, for example. So it's a given that in every manufacturing process, waste will be generated. It's expected. So one of the things I would say that we need to put emphasis on is in the hierarchy of waste management in terms of waste prevention, energy recovery, recycling, and even the eventual disposal. So at the various levels, we need to understand that there's business opportunities. So there's some partnerships that are currently ongoing with other Lagos State agencies and ministries at these various hierarchy or these various stages of waste management. So it's not necessarily, I think we can look at it as another means of making money. When we look at sustainable practices like changing from maybe the grid to like renewable energy. For example, when you look at your effluent treatment plants, you can generate biogas from the byproducts of this process. And there are other things that we can also look at when it comes to sustainable practices, like using solar energy, renewable energy. These are the ways that we can make money from it and not look at it as a financial burden. Then when I talk about ETP as well, we generate sludge from it. This sludge can be used as a fertilizer or manure, if I put it that way. It's another way to generate money. So if we look at the different levels of waste management, there are ways we can partner with even other private sector, that it will not just be about, oh, this thing is going to cost more money for us, but we can also look at it as opportunities to make more money as a manufacturing industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then I'll go to Mr. Victor Ajena. Now, I want us to begin to, extra mics now. I want us to begin to unbundle these opportunities. The BOI works closely with manufacturers, and from a manufacturing perspective, in terms of subsectors, from your view at the BOI, from your desk and from your lens, where do you think, in terms of industries or subsectors, which of these industries or subsectors do you think are most ripe for PP investments? And how is or how can the BOI catalyze this growth for PPPs amongst industries?
Thank you very much for the question. First and foremost, I bring you greetings from my managing director. In BOI, we consider the manufacturing sector as a very important sector. In fact, just short of saying that that's the reason for our existence. And he would have been here if not for other very pressing engagement. Okay, moving from there, from BOI, from our own perspective, we see light manufacturing generally as ripe for PPP investments in Nigeria. Then talking specifically, sectors like agro-processing, sectors like subsectors like food processing, subsectors like pharmaceuticals, to unlock the scale of capital needed to do PPP investment, and also to transform the Nigeria's manufacturing sector. And this we've done quite a lot in this regard, but we are still doing more. We are still going out there in the international market, a lot of funding to provide concessional financing to the manufacturing sector. I think I can stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for helping to outline some of the high growth or high potential sectors. Mr. Ogumekon, thank you very much for also joining us. From a banking perspective, financing perspective, how do you evaluate the credibility of a PPP manufacturing project or proposition before committing capital? And from a risk perspective as well, what red flags would you like to look out for? Not to walk away from the deal, but to help everyone on the table. Like, how can we reinforce these red flags?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me here. Now, when I saw the lineup of speakers, everybody was a doctor, but I wasn't. I brought Expo to support me. So, the truth is, the key thing in this is the track record of the sponsor of that PPP. If you have people, or even the government, so you go to a state where they have a track record of, they started projects, one governor came in, started a project, another one comes in and abandons it, and then you come tomorrow and say you want to do a PPP, and this is the state you want to do it with. That is my first red flag, right? So the first thing you have, so I'll say there are 5 things. In that 5-step framework, anything that is missing there is a framework. So 1, it's the track record of financial strength of the sponsor. Now, the clarity of this PPP. What is each player here responsible for? And is it their core competence? So imagine you want to do a PPP with government, and then I decide that my own part of this project is I'm going to bring the land, but the government is going to be the one to do the delivery. It's already shaky from the ground. Government can bring the land. They own the policy. Private sector, you do the delivery. Because I know that it is your core competence. Government, you can't give me land and somebody will come back and tell me that they own the land. But then you've been doing this for a while, is what we know you for. So, but if that structure is wrong, it's equally a red flag. The revenue model or the offtake certainty, they has whatever PPP you are doing, I must see the fact that there are people waiting for this thing to happen. So you build it, SMEs, for example, and you now decide that the cost per square meter is $3,000. That's a red flag, right? So there has to be off-takers, and it has to be genuine off-takers. And basically, the commitment behind that project has to be there as well, right? So we're all in Nigeria. There are some projects that are there just because it's capital intensive and because election is 2 days away, right? So the truth is, I'm a bank. I'm working with other people's money. So by the time you look at these frameworks I've mentioned, then you know that it's a good partnership that I want to go in with. But then anything missing in that line, that's a red flag. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm also not a doctor, okay? So you're in safe hands.
Thank you.
Back to a doctor, Dr. Sonny. Okay. What role really does trust between the government and the private sector play in supporting PPPs? And how can an advocacy group like yours help deepen and build that trust?
Yes, thank you again. Clearly, trust is like the currency of any agreement between two parties. I must trust you for me to enter into an agreement to do anything with you. And then if that is what it is, if that trust is not there, then you can't expect us to work successfully. And we know that trust in us. You can even know somebody yesterday, and somebody will tell you that, but don't put down your knowledge of yesterday to work with the person today, because it's so fast. What am I trying to say? If a private sector institution will want to work with a government institution, for us at the chamber, Lagos Chamber, we can be a go-between. How? We organize from time to time, very frequently, we organize what we call Stakeholders Forum. Stakeholders Forum is a forum where we call in the government agencies to come. If private sector people have complaints about any issue, we call them, come, our members have issues in this area. Please come and meet them, and then we talk. Now, as we are talking like that, we are engaging, we are building trust among ourselves. We now know you. Now today, businesses know agencies that are reactive and those that are proactive based on engagements in the past. So if an agency that you know does not necessarily easily, they don't listen, they are not, they don't do anything when you say anything, they are not sensitive to problems of private sector. You know, when such an institution wants to have a partnership with the private sector, you, as a chamber, you may advise that, well, these are the red flags with this institution, they are not too sensitive sensitive. We don't know if they have changed, but last time we checked, they are this and they are that. And also the chamber can also help to say, because normally when foreign investors come to Nigeria, they come to visit us to ask, what is the outlook of this economy? How do we navigate? How do we go for this and that? So we advise them based on what we know. So we are able to tell them, okay, you want to do business with this? Yeah, this is what we know about them. So clearly, as an advocacy body, we'll keep talking, making complaints, take complaints from business operators and pass over to government. Again, how much of it they work with, we don't have control over that. But what we have control over is that we can continue talking. Anyone they pick it. Anyone they want to ignore, no problem. So that is one way we are able to clearly work with government and private sector to have partnership together by sharing that information, that knowledge that we have, and also providing platforms for engagements for those parties. Yes, thank you.
Very much, Doctor. So I think it's just good we pivot to the government here, Mr. Ayodele. I think one of the recurring rhetorics today has been we need to tell more success stories, okay? Whether in manufacturing in Nigeria, in PPPs, we just need to put out these success stories. So permit me to put you on the spot in terms of looking for a success story. Can you speak to any successful partnership between the private sector and Lagos State that has enhanced environmental resilience in manufacturing or in industrial zones? Are there any?
Okay, thank you for that question. I'll start from where I stopped the last time, talking about the focus of LASEPA is preventing environmental pollution. And this is why we have an ETP, an effluent treatment plant in our office. This is to help the low and medium scale industries to bring their wastewater for treatment, because it's important for them to treat their wastewater before they discharge it into the environment. We don't just require them to just pay a fine or something. We have an ETP in the agency where we help them to treat their wastewater. Another one again that we're doing at the moment is to set up another ETP in Ikorodu around the Odogunyo area for industrial facilities that we have there. Then we have a partnership with Ororo company. What they do is we partner with them to take care of oil, because many people don't know what to do with their waste cooking oil, or even manufacturers, the ones that are in that field. So we've partnered successfully with this particular company to handle used oil, a chain of action with the processes. Thank you. Chain of processes use this waste oil for something else. They have. So we've been able to partner with them. We connect them with opticals and people that will provide them with the oil that they need for their processes. That's one of the success stories I would say. Then another one again, we are currently just in the discussion phase to creating waste centers to collect waste. But that one is just, we haven't gone too far in that. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for this specimen deals. Okay, Mr. Gina, still leaning on your experience at the BOI. So what lessons can be drawn from BOI's prior PPP engagements, and how are these lessons shaping the bank's current strategic direction?
Okay, so from our past PPP engagements have shown that early stakeholder alignment and also robust governance frameworks are crucial to success in PPP. Okay, and these experiences have shaped our current strategy to be more collaborative, focusing on integrated project preparation, sharing models, and building local supplier networks. We've also learned that transparent communication and clear exit strategies help build investor confidence, okay, and ensure long-term project viability. Today, these lessons inform how we design our PPP engagement and partnership to balance financial sustainability and developmental impact. As we look ahead, we are doubling down on these lessons to ensure that proper PPP engagements, future PPP engagements deliver proper developmental impact, okay, and for both the economy and the Nigerian people. Thank you.
Mr. Ogumekon, I'd like to zero in a bit on Sterling here. Sterling has the new, permit me to use the word agenda, since we're in an era of agenda. So Sterling's focus is on hard sectors, and I understand hards would be health, education, agriculture, renewable, and transportation. Where does manufacturing best intersect for impact and growth?
Thank you once again. No, it's not a new agenda. We've been running it for a while. Okay. And it's quite coincidental, right, that I'm sitting next to BOI, who's also my physical neighbor, and somebody from Lagos State. A week or 2 weeks ago, we just, as a group, Lagos State, BOI, Sterling Bank, just launched a PPP for MSMEs. Okay. Now, you talked about my strategy is focused on what we call the hard sector: health, education, agri, renewable energy, and transportation. Industrialization cuts across that, right? Currently, we're financing an agro-processing cluster under a PPP model, right? That connects farmers to agro-processors. We're currently working with state governments as well around building frameworks that attract private off-takers for industrial parks. Everything we do at Sterling is geared towards building the economy. Somebody said it today that the government can't do it alone. So if you look at in agriculture, there's manufacturing there. Within healthcare, there's manufacturing. Renewable energy. Every single manufacturer that came here today, every business that came here today talked around the cost of diesel, the cost of power. Now, if anybody has driven past Marina, my entire building is cladded with solar panels. It's basically a statement saying that if an 19-story building can be powered 85% of the time using solar, then largely your business can, and I can walk you through that process. Yes, capital intensive to start with, right? But we are reaping the benefits of it today, because when you tell me that the discos have come and increased the price by 300%, I'm wondering, when did that happen? So the truth is, in everything we do, in the hard sector that we drive, industrialization is a key backbone of that. Thank you.
Okay, so that we can give the audience some room to ask questions, we'll just have closeout comments from each of the panelists, okay, so that we can have some time to get audience participation. And so permit me to continue in the order I've been using. So Dr. Sonny, looking for a microphone. Okay, so your closeout arguments and your thoughts around PPPs.
Okay.
What do you want to push out there?
Yes, since we're talking about partnership, doing things together, I will encourage, I know it's going on, but I will encourage more public private engagements. Something like this, okay, like one of our panelists made a point about, for a conference like this, where we have the government present, government officials present, so that we can always engage together. It's also an advice to government that when you want to bring up a policy, involve the operators, of the implementers of that policy from the planning stage, not at the implementation stage. So don't produce something and just dump on them. So if you bring them in, you will find out that they will own the policy and implement with you. And there you have more, you have better results. So I would say, let's have more engagements, and let's keep talking, and let's keep hearing ourselves. Thank you.
Okay. And even though I know it's a closing argument, Mr. Adil, I really have to put you on the spot. Quite a number of manufacturers are unhappy with state actors and non-state actors from Lagos. And I'm sure even the environmental issues will be part of it. So in your closing arguments, I mean, how much of a concern or a burden are their comments today? Because we've had some of those comments today.
Okay, thank you. I would like to continue I'd like to add to what he said. Because we are always concerned as LASEPA, for example, about to prevent environmental pollution, it's not, to do something like that, it's not our goal to just generate revenue. Let me just put it that way. LASEPA generates revenue, yes, but it doesn't protect the state or protect the environment if our goal is just to generate revenue. Our goal is environmental compliance. And when he spoke about before we create any policy, we should invite the industries. I would like to say that in LASEPA, anytime we want to maybe change the standard or have any change in our policy or framework, anything we want to do, we always involve the industries. We always partner with the Manufacturer Association of Nigeria. We partner with them in different sectors, the oil and gas, the steel industry, the textile. We work with them in such sectors. So we involve them from the get-go such that they know what is coming. We have their input. We value their input and we take all these things into considerations. And in addition to this, at the moment we are currently running a 2-day training because we require them to meet environmental standards. We don't just expect that they just know what it is. We also train them they started yesterday and it's continuing today for efficiency in the use of effluent treatment plants and air pollution abatement facilities. So this training is also forms like a forum to engage the industry so that they understand what our standards are and what we expect them to do. So we work together at every point in time. We are always in partnership. So I think that's what LASEPA has done so far. Thank you.
So if I may tease, do the fines come after the trainings?
As we give them, definitely they have to go back and implement everything we've talked about. Then they have, before we even give them fine, they are warned.
Okay.
They know that we are coming. We always communicate. We have like a timetable of monitoring and compliance that we always work with, so they know that these are the things they're supposed to do. We don't just expect them to just think about it or do it. To be able to put this into action. Same thing with noise pollution. So if there's an issue with noise pollution, we don't just go there and seal the facility. We give you like first warning, second warning. We invite you to the office. We discuss. These are our requirements. These are the standards that we expect of you. You can even work with these particular companies. They can help you to be able to meet with our regulations. So those are the ways that we work with them. It's not just about just issuing fines. We work with them to be able to ensure environmental protection. Thank you.
Mr. Gina, your closing arguments, your thoughts?
Okay, today's discussions have reinforced the urgent need to leverage PPP to unlock investment and drive sustainable manufacturing growth in Nigeria. We must also invest in local capacity and ensure that PPP initiatives support backward integration and build resilient local supply chains. Okay, there's a need to build well-targeted infrastructure connecting competitive industry sectors and industrial parks and export processing zones to global marketplace. As we move forward, let's turn this insight into concrete actions, working together to build a competitive and inclusive manufacturing sector that powers Nigeria's industrial future. Thank you very much.
Mr. Agumeko.
Thank you once again. I think that when we talk about PPP around manufacturing, most times they're focused towards either the mid or the larger manufacturers. There is need for us to equally focus on the ones at the bottom, because the idea is to grow those ones. We have a lot more of mid-size and smaller size manufacturers, and it's PPP. So most manufacturers that came onto this platform today, they've largely figured out their power issues. They've largely figured out their own challenges. The smaller ones have the largest impact. So an industrial park for smaller organizations is required, where power is, economies of scale sets in. So what I would say is, while there's an increase in the number of PPPs that you see, we need to see that PPPs focused on smaller and mid-sized manufacturers. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Gomekon, to put you on the... You've been teasing about this your industrial zone, or this your industrial park. So if I hear you correctly, it's an industrial, because we have quite a bit of industrial parks in this country. In Lagos, we've talked about a few of them already. So it's an industrial park for cottage industries, is that correct?
Well, it is one that we've partnered with. And yes, it is for cottage industries. But then the one we have at the moment is in the middle belt. You need more around. Now, a lot of us stay in Lagos. But if you go to Kano, right? The truth is, Kano is a state where a lot of manufacturers are benefiting from what the government is doing. And it's maybe not because of a public-private partnership, but the government seems to be more receptive. In Kano, you don't have Omoniles turning up your business every other day coming to tell you that it's my father's land. And then they know exactly when they're going to have power, right? So in those locations will be a good place for you to go and partner with the government that's already doing something in that regard to be able to support even the smaller guys. But yes, it's for cottage industries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so I hope the area boys in Lagos heard it. The Kano boys are better behaved. Okay? My area boys are better than yours. So I think we have a few more minutes for the audience to chip in. Okay? Just 2 questions, right? Okay, so first 2 hands. Okay? Okay. The nays have it. Thank you. Okay, so we'll just close out and thank everyone for your time and the quality of the responses. And I have learned a lot and taken a number of notes, and I hope our audience online have also learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to our second and final panel, for doing justice to the conversation around public-private partnerships and unlocking investment for sustainable manufacturing growth. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for them once again for doing justice to this conversation. And I'd like to thank you all for being a very, very awesome and engaging audience. Thank you very much for being with us. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Before I go, I'd like to please make welcome our editor at BusinessDay for the closing address. Right. Please put your hands together for him. He'll give us the closing address. Please, let's do better with that applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much for staying to the end. I think it's been a very productive day. Let's go. I think personally, manufacturers tend to go through a lot. And I remember one gentleman, the company is doing very well now, but at the start of last year, when they were going through a very rough period, things weren't looking very good. But I'm glad to hear what I heard today. Even as an editor, as a journalist, manufacturers finding their way around the problems, thinking long term, and very hopeful, and I would say bragging about made in Nigeria. I think that's my own major takeaway. Just fixing the problem, making things in Nigeria, and being able to brag about them. I think there are more opportunities, there are more potentials. I hope you've taken them away, as I have. We will tell the stories, we'll amplify your problems and your successes. And I wish you all a safe journey, safe trip back to your respective homes and offices, and all the best in your businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please meet, network, take pictures outside, take pictures on the inside, and you also have some souvenirs outside. Please grab one for yourself. Thank you very much. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and it's been an honor being your MC today. Thank you.